And we're live. Joy, before we started recording, we were trying to come up with basically something to start with, and we basically settled, for want of a better term, on what you do. How would you
Yeah.
describe what you do? Is it a singer-songwriter or...
Yeah, I suppose so. I've been kind of playing music for pretty much half my life now at this stage. So, acoustic guitar, singing, kind of started off doing covers and then eventually started kind of writing my own stuff. And yeah, so nowadays, I suppose, yeah, kind of bluesy, folky, that kind of thing.
It's interesting what you said there about starting off playing covers, because that'd be
Yeah.
fairly typical, wouldn't it? For,
Generally
for
speaking,
musicians.
yeah, I think so. Like, I think most people pick up a guitar or any instrument or start singing because they're inspired by somebody else. So the best place for you to start is to try and kind of copy what you're already seeing or hearing, and then like from that, then you kind of develop your own style or whatever. So
Yeah, it's great though, because recently I uploaded a speech of sorts, and I've had this idea in my head for years of kind of speech writing and writing stuff to music, and kind of, I suppose, cringe-worthingly enough, kind of motivational type stuff to
yeah,
try
yeah,
to maybe light a fire under someone's and get them going. But my original thoughts were to reenact a speech, so basically do a cover version, like a
brilliant.
musician would do a cover version of a song.
Yeah, yeah,
I ended up not doing that and just biting the bullet and uploading something anyway. But musicians have, not that they have it easy, but they have it easier than others insofar as there is that, and that's okay. Because if you're let's say a speechwriter or a poet or a film producer, you never see people doing covers of Jaws, the movie, say, or covers of
thank
something
God.
else. Because but exactly, because there's something sacrilege about that. Like,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're going to fucking make a movie, make your own, or if you're going to write a poem or do a speech, do your own. But with music, it's kind of cool that you're emulating people, not
yeah.
ripping them off.
Definitely. There's kind of a reference point to start from. So, like with music, now I'm not by any means like a technical expert when it comes to music. I can't even, if you gave me sheet music there now, I wouldn't be able to read it or anything like that. I could maybe do Mary Had a Little Lamb on the recorder and that'd be it. But like in terms of music, like if there's an instrument, there's a way to play it. There are certain chords or there's a certain, technique to it. So if you're learning how to do it, you're kind of learning what other people have already done, and then you're developing your own style in it. Do you know? So there's already a kind of a place to work from. If you're writing a poem, you're just using your own language. Do you know? There's not really, you don't have to do it in a particular tune or a particular key or anything like that. So I think maybe that's like with music, it's maybe more important that you are kind of looking for influences maybe to start off. I don't know.
No, that makes sense, and I'd never even, because it's weird, and that's the great thing about actually talking to people and have someone hit the ball back at you. I've thought about this idea of the similarities or differences, should I say, between speech writing and writing songs, but I never thought of what you just came out with there, like that. There's
Neither did I.
no, but of course, but again, that's the beauty of these conversations, and the
Yeah,
fact
yeah.
that they're not scripted or not kind of pre-rehearsed in any way, shape, or form. You don't really know what you're going to say until you've come out and said it, and that can be a bit kind of
Yeah,
daunting.
I think that's the scariest thing about doing something like this and what might maybe prevent people from doing it. So, for example, if you send somebody a message going, will you do a podcast with me for 3 hours? They're kind of going, shit, what am I going to say? Like, what if I say something stupid? And you probably will say something stupid. But sure, that's the whole beauty of it. You don't know what's going to come out until you actually give it a go.
But isn't it weird though, because that's so common.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody that I've asked I don't think anybody that I've asked to come on has said, "Yeah, I'll come on. You're on tomorrow."
Yeah.
Do you know that, do you know
Yeah.
that kind of way? Like, does now suit? Are you free? There's always that little bit of, "Ooh, fuck."
Yeah.
Kind of let me think about it. And more often than not, people say no.
Mm.
And then occasionally, and what I do is at the start, I'd ask somebody, and they'd say, "Oh no, I don't know," and then I'd say, "I know, go on," and I go, "You go on, I go on. You want to." And go. There was a bit of encouragement from me, or a lot of encouragement, maybe too much. But
Yeah.
now that I've kind of asked so many people, what I've started to do is I'll ask them. If they say yeah, we kind of arrange a date to come out. If they say no, what I'll say is, listen, it's an open invitation. If you want to do it, do it. And that's me encouraging them to do it, kind of done.
Yeah.
And at least then some people at least have come back and said, fuck it, I've thought about it, and you've only got so many years on this planet, you may as well do a bit, I don't know. But
Definitely,
it's
yeah.
just, it's interesting. But getting back to the songwriting element, how comfortable are you now with expressing yourself? And like, do you hold back? Is there a lot of stuff that you've written that you haven't sang or recorded, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm recording my first album this year, which is kind of a bit ridiculous because I have been doing this for ages. I've done little bits of maybe demoing or kind of an EP, but not really though. And I've done lots with other people, but this is the first time where I'm actually confident enough to go, okay, here's my songs, going to put them on an album and put them out there. There's loads of songs that I've had over the years that I would have played and played and played, but now I've no interest in playing them. I'd actually cringe if I listened to them now, or like I've new songs that I'm a little bit more, I can stand over them a little bit more than maybe other ones that I would have written years ago. But I've been learning a lot lately. Like there's a guy helping me out with kind of the logistics of the album and just kind of mentoring me in a way. And he's a good friend of mine, Eugene Donegan. And I actually sang on his second album. He's got 2 albums under his belt, and he's with a band now called Pilgrim Street. They're going to do an album as well. And he just has a wealth of knowledge and experience and everything about the whole thing. And I was talking to him about that. I was sending him on kind of little phone recordings of new songs going, oh, here's the songs that I want to put in the album. And he's kind of going, where's all the golden oldies? Like the ones that he would have known from years ago. And I was going, oh, no, I don't want to play those songs anymore. And he's kind of going, well, you have to kind of strike a balance there, because people who do know your music already know you because of those songs, and you can't just kind of dismiss them offhand. So you kind of have to find a bit of middle ground, between kind of what like just not the stuff that you're just interested in now, forgetting about everything else, but like kind of doing a bit of a balance between the two. So some new stuff, some old stuff, and not like kind of getting over yourself a little bit, and like just doing all the ones that kind of got people into you in the first place. I think especially for a first album, that's probably really important. So I'm going to have to kind of revive a lot of songs that I haven't played for years, and that I consciously decided not to play for years, because I was like, oh, that's shit, like I don't want to play that anymore. But I've actually kind of rekindled a bit of love for some of the old songs, even though I wouldn't write in that style now. I wouldn't say those things now. I don't really feel those things in an immediate sense anymore, but they're still part of me. Like they're still part of who I once was or whatever. So they're still probably going to get a little look in on the album. So.
And what are the things that you would have thought but don't now, or would have felt but don't now? Is there anything that jumps off the page?
Oh, there's a couple of them that, like, I started writing songs when I was maybe 17. I started playing.
I'd say, it's just, sorry to cut across you, but we'll do that. We'll do the whole, were you a singer as a toddler kind of thing? Do you know what I mean? Like, how did that come about? Like the whole singing thing.
So when I was in secondary school, I was in Mercy, and for 3 years then I was in Beaufort College to do my leaving cert. But when I was in Mercy, I was in a bit of a girl band, and we did like talent shows in O'Mahony's and all these kind of places, really fucking cringy stuff. And I was the shit one in the band as well. So there was myself, Mairead O'Dowd, who's incredibly talented. She went to Billy Barry, and brilliant dancer, singer, the whole lot. Laura Carroll, brilliant singer, a guitar player. Jackie Hosey, really good singer. Katie Bird, like all these really, very talented people. And I was just kind of along for the crack, really, more than anything. I was kind of, singing a little bit here. I wasn't terrible, but I wasn't very good either. But it was good crack, and that was the first kind of the first bit of messing with music, I suppose, that I did. And that was when I was maybe 14, 15. And then when I was about 16, like one of my oldest childhood friends, her dad was I'd be going over and staying in their house in Blackcastle or whatever, a couple of nights a week. Practically lived in their house, and she would have lived in mine. And he used to be going out the door on a Monday evening with a guitar case, and he'd be going off to this place, to do his gig. And I kind of started only really noticing it when I was about that age. And I was kind of going, oh, where's he going? What's he doing? What's going on down there? And started kind of asking him more about it. And then found out that he was going to this place he called it Marmion's. And I was like, all right, okay. So over a bit of time or whatever, figured out that it was Birmingham's bar straight across the road from the Palace. And I got really intrigued. I, wanted to kind of see what happened down there or whatever. So eventually, anyway, his wife, so my friend's mum, said, look, I'll bring yous down as long as your mum and dad are all right with that. I'll bring yous down. Yous can have a Coke and listen to the tunes or whatever, listen to the lads playing. So we were delighted. Went down and there was Dickie Brady, who's my friend's dad. There's Sean Clark, the nipper, they call him. There was Paul Clark, as in Clarkie's dad, so Paul Clark Sr., Willie Gilson and various other people kind of coming in and out. So they'd sit on this little bench around the fire, sipping pints, having crack, playing tunes, and it was brilliant. And just the connection that I could see between them and just people coming in like punters into the pub, and I just loved the whole atmosphere, and I just found it really intoxicating. I was like, oh, I want to do that too, you know. So asked Santi for a guitar, and
So what age were you again at this stage?
I think it was about 16.
Right, cool.
Yeah, so
Cheeky bitch asking Santi for a guitar.
yeah. No, I asked my mum and dad, and they duly obliged anyway. So they got me my first guitar for that Christmas. And so I started just messing around with it at home, first of all, and kind of got like maybe a book of chords or something like that. Like it was kind of before the days of like YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
but there'd be websites that you could look up chords or whatever. So like songs that I liked, I'd just tap them into Google or whatever and print off the chords. And I was just literally go to school, come home, go up to the bedroom and just be there for hours playing and playing and playing. And I was terrible like for ages. And eventually anyway, Dickie and the lads kind of said, well, sure, bring your guitar down on the Monday nights or whatever and you can play along. Like the best way to learn is to just play along with other people.
Yeah, dive in.
Yeah. So I was obviously terrified but honoured to, be allowed to do this. So I kind of started doing that then every Monday night, and I'd be playing along with them, and the way that it would work is that each of them would take a turn doing a song. So when it come to me, like I'd just kind of skip me because I didn't really have any songs. I might have one or two, and then as time went on and I was kind of practicing more, I might have one song that I was confident enough to play. So I'd play that at the end of the night or whatever. So again, another bit of time had passed, and then I might have 2 songs, and I might have 3 songs. And then I remember the first time that I really felt like a proper musician in a way was went down to play, and on this particular night I was able to take my turn every time. So every time it came to me, I had a song and they'd all play along, and that was all grand. And then at the end of the night we were finished playing and I went out for a cigarette, I think, or I was off chatting to somebody, and I could see them all kind of huddling in the corner. I was like, what the hell is going on over there? And the next thing they come over anyway and very ceremoniously like handed me 20 quid, and they were like, that's your money now for tonight, like you were
Savage.
you're part of the band or whatever. So it might as well have been 10 million euro. Like I just thought it was the best thing in the world. And just through their encouragement then, and lots of other people's encouragement, I used to go down to that pub every night that I could, that there was music on. There was never anything on a Friday or Saturday, but every other night of the week. Monday night would be with the lads. Tuesday night would be Toby Creek and Marky Maguna playing great tunes as well. Wednesday night would be Clarkey and Beef and Padder Mulvey playing savage tunes as well. That's kind of how I got to sort of know all of them. Then Thursday would be the Beggies. So David Beggy, Stephen Beggy and Davy Dunn. Nothing Friday or Saturday, and then Sunday would be this mad all day, all night session. So it'd start off about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, be Pads O'Farrelly, Gordon Leonard, all these kind of guys, and then the Beggies would come in and do the evening session. And I was literally there every night and every Sunday for all of that, just trying to learn and try and kind of develop my craft, let's say, and obviously have lots of crack as well and drink loads of pints. So over time then, yeah, like they all sort of got to know that I was, learning how to play or whatever, and they'd get me up and they'd do a song, and it all just, because of all of that and all of those people, I kept playing, and I, kept kind of spending more time doing it. And then through that, like once I kind of had a good few covers under my belt, that's when I kind of started going, okay, I'll try and write something. So eventually anyway, like that was kind of the start of it, and then I started gigging all around the place doing different kind of covers gigs. But really what I wanted to do was write my own songs. So I remember like at that age, yourself, like when you're a teenager, like you're full of angst and you're whatever, like everything's very complicated. And
what age were you at this stage then?
So at this stage I think I was maybe 17 when I wrote my first song.
Okay.
It wasn't the best now in the world, but what I used to do when I started writing songs, I used to, when I'd be playing down in Mickey's pub, we'd call it Mickey's, so Mickey Marmion was the guy that owned the pub. He sadly passed away last year and is very missed in our circle, but I'd go down and I'd be playing the covers gigs, then it'd come to my turn, and the lads, I kind of copped that a lot of the stuff I was playing the lads wouldn't have heard of anyway. So I was like, they might say to me, oh, who sings that song? And I'd say, oh, for example, Gemma Hayes or whatever. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, never heard of her. So I realised if I played one of my own songs and said it was somebody else,
Nice.
they'd give me honest feedback and they wouldn't know it was mine. And I'd know then, is it shit or is it not or whatever. So I used to say that all my own songs were Gemma Hayes songs. But should they all, I could have been playing Baba Black Sheep and they would have been like, that's great, yeah, you're doing brilliant, just keep it up, but I kind of knew myself, like, testing out different ones, which ones kind of they were really into and which ones they weren't, and that kind of, like, yeah, my songwriting kind of went from there. So
You sneaky bitch.
I know, yeah. They probably don't know that if they ever hear this.
But that's fucking, that's a touch of genius right there. That's brilliant. I love that. I really love that. I really love that because I've been waffling on a lot recently about this idea of incremental steps, and that's a really good one. That's a really, really fucking good one. Oh, what do you think of this song? This is a song by this obscure artist. She lives in Australia somewhere, or whatever, like, and it's actually your own stuff. That's really cool. So you were introduced to this scene that what is that, the session musician scene, is that what that's kind of called?
So.
At what, 16? And then a year later you're playing in kind of cover songs with other people and kind of writing your own stuff. Okay, so
much.
where did it go from there?
From there, I mean, I used to kind of, I'd be working and I'd be gigging, and I never really took it all that seriously. Like, I loved playing, but I never really saw it as, oh yeah, I want to be a professional singer. Like, I want this to be my full-time thing. And actually, kind of quite the contrary. Like, after a while I sort of thought, geez, I never want to depend on this for my dinner or paying my bills or whatever, because to me I just felt like it was putting too much pressure on it. Like, I didn't want to feel like I had to do it. So I always kind of had that feeling, but I always did want to do it at the same time as well. And I suppose after a while of playing largely by myself, I started kind of playing them with other people, and maybe like getting a band together to play my own gigs and stuff like that. And just like friends of mine who were great musicians, luckily enough, say for example Kev Mulvey, who'd be a friend of yours, I think, and probably a friend of the podcast. He would have played a lot with me, and then like other friends like Trevor Ludlow, Ian Ludlow, Lizzie Oakes, like all these people, like, were kind of in the early days when I was just starting to kind of do my own music. So I'd be kind of playing here and there at open mic nights or singer-songwriter nights or an odd festival and all that kind of stuff. But still, I was kind of doing a lot of it, but I wasn't really doing it professionally, let's say. Like, I was always I still always had like a job, in the background or whatever. There's a few times here and there where I thought, okay, yeah, no, I'm going to do an album now, I'm going to make a go of this now or whatever, but I just never really put the work in and never really committed to it. And I think deep down I felt like I wasn't really ready to do it anyway. Like, not the way that I feel I'm ready now to do an album. I'm kind of glad I didn't do an album back then just for the sake of doing it. So yeah.
And is it, to use my own kind of terminology, is it very on the lead of you to think you need to have an album and need to have all these things? And like when you were saying there about that guy that's advising you, like, I don't know who he is, I don't know the first thing about writing music or creating albums or being a professional musician, don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
But I'd be wary that you could be falling into this is how it's done, this is what you need to do, you need to think about this, and people want to hear the old you as well as the new you, and all this kind of stuff. And I would wonder, are you better off just nearly almost not ignoring all that, taking on board, but do your own thing at the same time?
It depends what you want to get out of it, I suppose. Like, in terms of the advice that I get from Eugene, it's really not it's not that he's kind of going, you know, if you want to sell X amount, you have to do A, B, and C. It's more that if you're doing this, you need to do it properly. And in order to do it properly, you need to kind of have a sort of a plan and a proper structure to the whole thing. And it's more really being conscious of what you're like. He's not saying you should put these songs on the album. He's kind of saying don't dismiss old songs just because they're old songs. Do you know what I
Okay, yeah,
mean?
no,
And
that's
that
okay.
kind of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
way. He'd be very much into the artistry of the whole lot, but he's also got the experience of all the logisticy kind of businessy end of it, I suppose, as well. But the way that I suppose a lot of people kind of make these albums and spend loads of money doing all of that, and by the time they have it done, they've nothing left to do anything with it. So they have their album, but that's it. It goes on a shelf, and there's no more about it.
And so, sorry, what the point you're making there is that you don't have the money to promote it once you've made it, or
Yeah, and not even just from a financial point of view, but just from a planning point of view. You know, like they might kind of spend a couple of years doing the album, putting a load of money into it, and then it's kind of like, oh, the album's done. What now? And then something else has kind of, there's no sort of follow through with it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So, because of lack of planning, I think that can often lead to a lack of finance then to do anything with it anyway. Whereas if from the get-go, before you even go into the studio, if you're going, right, what's my budget, when do I want to release this by, if I want to do that, what do I need to do in terms of promo, all that kind of stuff, and have some sort of a budget and some sort of a plan in place for it. Because otherwise, yeah, you'll have an album, but only you'll ever know about it. You know, like you kind of need to have that structure in place, I think, to be able to get it out there, whether it's booking a tour or, you know, releasing it on all different platforms, all that kinds of. I wouldn't have a clue about a lot of that stuff, you know. So I kind of value advice and, you know, information from people who have done it kind of the right way and the wrong way, as they might kind of see it, you know. So, like albums, I think can be. I think they can be a black hole for a lot of people's kind of creativity and money and everything else, because it just becomes this thing that they feel like they have to do because they're playing music, and then they do it, and then it just kind of falls by the wayside. Then nothing ever really comes of it. Do you
yeah,
know?
oh no,
So,
no, big time, and that idea of putting a plan into place, I think there's wisdom in that for everybody in relation to everything.
yeah,
Do you know that kind of way?
definitely.
Like
Yeah.
you might have an idea to do whatever it is, maybe get in the football team, and people just they really want to do whatever it is, whether it's put out an album or get on the team or, you know, insert whatever it is that you really want to do. But as you say, without a plan, number one, first and foremost, they're not going to get to that point.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you don't have a plan for what's going to happen afterwards, you're going to get to that point and realize that there's almost an empty feeling. You've done it, and now what?
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way? So the
Yeah.
idea of kind of planning to do it and then having a plan for once it's made is really important, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that, yeah, I've never really been in that kind of frame of mind about it before. Again, it's still not something that I want to do as my thing that I do. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to, if I'm going to put all that time and effort and money into doing an album, I want to give it a proper run out. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to kind of do it a disservice by not having a good plan. Like I will work my ass off to do it, and then I'll do, you know, tours and all that kind of stuff, absolutely, but I'll still be doing my other stuff in the meantime. Like I'm not going to be, you know, going, okay, I'm a full-time musician now. It's just I'm someone who has an album, and I'll do the necessary work, but that'll be kind of it. Like I'm not, it might be the only album I ever do, you know, of my own stuff. At least it's not really something that I see myself kind of doing long term. Now that said, I might do it, and then I could be already writing a second one. I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, it's not really. Maybe I'm not like a typical kind of musician in that sense. Like I don't want to really just be a musician full time. You know, I want it to be something that I'm doing, but not solely.
If you won the lotto, what would you be doing? If you had, you know, 10 million quid in the bank, do you know what you'd be doing?
Well, over the last kind of year or so, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit less, I've been kind of having this year of sort of like trying a bit of this and trying a bit of that. So I kind of had a bit of a, I don't want to say epiphany, it sounds so fucking stupid, but it was kind of an epiphany that I really wanted to get into kind of healing. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time. So I thought, right, okay, there's lots of different things that could mean. So get out and like, you know, try and see what they are. So like holistic therapies and all that kind of stuff. So I did I've done a couple of like little short courses and workshops and stuff like that here and there in like homeopathy, sound healing, meditation, stuff like that. I've kind of recently gotten into yoga and mindfulness and all this kind of stuff. So if you were to give me a check for 10 million quid right now, I'd go travel the world, train up in all of these kind of different therapies, and I'd open some sort of a place where people could come and access those kind of services, I think.
Okay, where to start? Where to start? We'll start with this morning. And this is going to sound fucking almost like a setup, but I woke up this morning and I reached across to get my phone and see what time it was, and I knocked something off my little bedside locker onto the ground.
Right.
And it just so happened to be a little vial of homeopathic pills. Oh, what was the arnica? Is that?
Oh, yeah.
Homeopathic arnica things. And I saw the word homeopathy and my bullshit detector just started pinging off the charts. And before I turned around to herself and said, where did this bullshit come from? Fuck's sake, blah, 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 which I have a kind of a habit of doing. I said, no, cool your jets, Frano, and pick something that's written on this little label. There wasn't much written on it, but pick something, go online and debunk it basically. Find as plain an example as you can see. Don't let it be just my opinion of why this is nonsense. Have something solid to say, look, this is what you were conned into buying, and this is why I'm using the word conned.
Right.
And it was the dilution rate for the homeopathic remedy that she has inside there was, I think, 200 cc.
Okay.
And when I looked into that online and did the kind of maths on it, I found out a great little analogy, and it was, I'm going to butcher this, but the sentiment is correct. In order for there to still be, no, what was it? If you gave this quote unquote medicine to somebody, not to somebody, if you gave it to 4 billion people once a second for 4 billion years, it would take 4 billion years for one person to get one molecule of the substance that was in this tablet that was supposed to be effective.
Right.
So let me just get that straight in my head again. You take a sample of 4 billion people, give them each, I think it was 4 billion tablets a second for 4 billion years, something astronomical like that. for a molecule of this stuff to actually, for the odds of this molecule to be in what it is that you're taking. That's how small the dilution rates were.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, homeopathy in general, I would see that as just complete and utter nonsense of the highest degree.
Yeah.
So you that's looking into that, not just that obviously, but that world.
Yeah.
Now don't get me wrong, another thing you mentioned there was mindfulness. I'm all about being mindful, all about it, and yoga as well, and a load of other different things. But there are things like homeopathy that I think should be stamped out as opposed to encouraged. Where are you on the whole homeopathy thing, or that element of the healing world, say?
Yeah, I did a 1-day workshop out in Milltown, so I can't really one way or another say that I'm in any way an expert or even really a novice. Like, I just kind of said, oh look, I'll dip my toe and I'll go out and I'll see. But really, to me, it seems to sort of make a lot more sense than a lot of modern medicine does. For example, there was a nurse in the group. She was there because she was kind of losing faith in a lot of the pharmaceutical ways of, treating things as on their own. So she was kind of looking more into treating things with more natural remedies. There was another, there was a couple there who had gone to a homeopathic vet with their dog and had great success in treating a cancer that the dog had that the vet wasn't able to treat. And there was lots of kind of case stories and, kind of anecdotal stuff about people being kind of cured with natural remedies where pharmaceutical stuff didn't work. But for me, in a very kind of fundamental sense, like, I think it makes sense that most kind of ailments or illnesses can be cured with natural remedies. I mean, all pharmaceuticals come from that anyway, in one way, shape, or form. So I don't know enough about it to say yes, it's total bullshit, or yes, no, it's, you know, I definitely stand over it. I think I have a lot more to read about it and learn about it, but I think overall, like the science of it seems to be pretty sound. Like what you're talking about
Of
there
sort
with
of
the
homeopathy, or
yeah, of
okay,
homeopathy, yeah, definitely. Like the pills probably that you found inside, or any kind of homeopathic remedy, it's what they are is essences of different things. So the way that you do, like you'd put a substance in with, you know, I think it's like some alcohol and water or whatever, and you make a solution, and you shake it and shake it and shake it a certain amount of times to get the essence of it into the solution, and that's what they call it a remedy. That's what it is. So
but
there's
when you say the essence, what do you mean when you say the
yeah, like
essence?
as in it's not like a concentrated, you know, drop of something. It's like whatever, like the chemical essence of it. I don't know enough about it. I'm
Yeah.
afraid I'm going to say something stupid
No, no,
about
no,
it.
not at all.
But it's like kind of, it's been likened to kind of quantum physics in terms of the way that it works. Again, that kind of goes over my head a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
The day that I spent out there and the bit that I did learn made me think I want to know more about this, and I want to kind of, in a more practical sense, like maybe go and see a homeopath, you know, for different things. Like I know definitely like lots of people have, say, injuries or, you know, joint problems, stuff like that, and they use the likes of, say, arnica in a kind of a cream to put on the joints, and it works as well, if not better, than the likes of putting Nurofen gel on it, you know. So
yeah.
even like things like aloe vera, stuff like that, like all have really, really strong healing properties. And like again, I like it wasn't even really a day, it was like 8 hours I spent in the presence of a person who's an expert in homeopathy, but it did make me want to learn more about it. Like
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't dismiss it offhand and say that it's bullshit. Definitely
Well,
not.
I wouldn't dismiss it offhand and say it's bullshit, but I would dismiss it as say that it's not scientific and that it claims to be a lot of things that it's certainly not. Now, I'm all about the natural remedies, and I'm all against the pharmaceutical route generally.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we live in a society these days that you get a painkiller for the stone in your shoe. And I
Definitely.
think that's absolutely not the way to go. And you mentioned aloe vera, like literally behind me.
Yeah.
Is an aloe vera plant. I'm all about the natural remedies,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm generally opposed to the kind of the pharmaceutical route. I think that we distill down these properties far too. What's the word? We distill things down to their base level and forgo all the other things that are in it. Like you see it with cannabis now. You can buy distilled tetrahydrocannabinol in either a liquid or a pill form, and that's the psychoactive substance that essentially gets you high from cannabis.
Yeah.
But that forgoes the other, whatever it is, 50 or 100 or 200 other cannabinoids that are in the plant. And it loses the whole holistic approach. And I'm all about a holistic approach, kind of taking things from nature as they've appeared in nature, and not distilling them down to their essence as such. But the thing that bugs me about homeopathy is people hear about this idea of kind of alternative medicines, and they're like, oh, okay. And then they hear about homeopathy and they're like, homeopathy's bollocks. And then they write off, you know, arnica gel and aloe vera and cannabis and all these other different things. So I don't know, it's one of those things that just kind of really grinds my gears.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting as well that people call anything but mainstream kind of medical stuff alternative, because that stuff was around way before pharmaceuticals were around. Do you know, like natural medicine, and especially like things like Chinese medicine, acupuncture, all those kind of things, like alternative therapies. That's a bit mad to me, because that stuff was around first. Do you know, so is it not a case that the medical stuff, the modern medicine stuff, that's actually more alternative than any of the other therapies, really?
Yeah, but me that loves my sound bites, I have one here. Alternative medicine that's been proven to work is called medicine. Do you know that kind of way?
But
Now, I know that's a
but
very general, sweeping
I
statement,
don't
but
know. Well, like lots of that other stuff has been proven to work. And again, like for me, I think it's important to go and experience it for yourself. So, like I sat in a room talking about homeopathy for a day. I thought it was really interesting, but I've never been to a homeopath. Like if I
yes,
have if I break my leg or if I get cancer, I'm not
you're
going
not
to, the
ringing your local
homeopath is
homeopath.
not going to be the first person that I ring up. I mean, I'd certainly do a bit of research and, I'd be very open minded about it all. But like, obviously, I'm going to go and like take the route that's best going to serve me in order to get better. But that I wouldn't dismiss all that other stuff and just take a medical doctor's advice in and of itself either. I think lots of people kind of dismiss things without really ever experiencing them firsthand themselves. Like even in terms of like it kind of came up a little bit earlier on, but like psychedelics, like people who kind of have never tried them saying like, oh, that's all, it's mad, or it doesn't, it doesn't, like even let's say like kind of in extreme cases like treating different illnesses and everything with psychedelics, like some people would think that that's a mad thing to do, or they'd write it off and they'd say, oh, that's that's not the correct way to go about it or whatever. But it's like, how do you know if you've never tried it? Or like what, like I think we're very quick to dismiss a lot of things before we actually have first-hand experience of them ourselves.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, and I think that the advances that have been made in psychedelics in particular are just absolutely outstanding, and it's a shame and a stain against humanity's reputation that we have forgone that research because we've made them illegal over the last number of decades. Like
Yeah.
it's only now in recent years that psychedelics have been essentially proven as, again, essentially a cure for things like post-traumatic stress disorder, that, and ecstasy as well. I'm not sure what the technical term for ecstasy is, but there's a guy, David Nutt. Are you familiar with David Nutt?
He
He,
has that drugs without the hot air. He has a
I'm not
book.
what's that?
It's a book that my housemate loaned to me about a year ago that I've never opened.
Right. One of
Like
those. We all
many
have
of the
those.
books in my room, I'm great for borrowing books or buying books or whatever. Like they look great in your room, but yeah, I haven't even opened it. But that's, the name is familiar to me. Apparently, he's really good.
No, no,
That's all I
he's
know.
brilliant, and he's your kind of typical medical doctor, goes the pharmacological route, but at the same time will be, again, off the lead in my terminology. Do you know that kind of
Yeah,
way?
yeah,
He's one for results and not anecdotal evidence, because there's been a lot of anecdotal evidence about the likes of psychedelics and about alternative therapies in Eastern medicine and all this, but he'd be more, listen, let's test your claims. Let's put up
yeah.
the clinical trials. Let's do the placebo-controlled, double-blind clinical studies and prove whether or not these things, if there's any efficacy. That's a word.
Efficacy.
Efficacy. There we go. Got there. In it.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I think with just, and not to go on about homeopathy too much, I think homeopathy has failed all those trials. That's my understanding of
Yeah,
it.
I don't know because I haven't read any of
Yes,
them or
yes.
all of them, or yeah, like I definitely haven't. So I don't know enough about it to kind of really say one way or another. Like out of all the things that I have been kind of dabbling in, that was literally just a 1 day thing, and I
Yeah, yeah,
thought
no,
it
of
was cool, and
course.
I thought, yeah, like I might go back to it. But the guy that you're talking about there, David Nutt, reminds me of, do you know Dr. Carl Hart?
No.
So he is, now let me see, is he in Colorado or where is he? He's a professor of psychology and other things. But he's this really, really cool guy. He's been on Joe Rogan a few times. Um, Black guy, dreadlocks, does not look like a professor of psychology like that you would kind of, imagine that they should look like or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah.
he has a book called High Price, and he's like all these different talks that he's done about all kinds of drugs like meth, heroin, cannabis, like all kinds of everything basically. Traveled the world, spent time in Scandinavia a lot, like especially in Finland, Portugal, all these kind of places where they kind of look at the harm caused by drugs and also how that links in with, let's say, social disadvantage and the criminal justice system. And especially in the States, where the vast majority of people that are in prison, they're there for drug crimes, where they probably shouldn't really be, you know. And he talks about the fact that drug abuse should be treated as a health issue, not as a criminal issue. So if you have basically a load of people, say you've got 10 people who are taking drugs on a regular basis, whatever that drug is, whether it's heroin, whether it's cannabis, whatever it might be, maybe one of those people might have a problem with it. They might abuse it. It might affect their day-to-day lives. They might not be able to hold down a job. All the relationships get destroyed, whatever. That person shouldn't be treated as a criminal. They obviously have a health issue, whether it's a mental health issue, physical health issue, whatever. They all go hand in hand. You get them all eventually anyway when you have a problem like that. But he's a big advocate of like legalizing all drugs, which I would totally agree with. Like, legalize all the drugs, and make it safer for people to do it responsibly, and make sure that there's proper help and support available for people who can't do it responsibly, or who for whatever reason end up in a situation where they're abusing substances, which I think makes an awful lot of sense.
Oh, I'm completely on board there. Like, I have a view in relation to banning things generally. I don't think
Yeah.
things should be banned.
Yeah.
Like, full stop. Provided they're not obviously harming other people.
Yeah.
So if you're taking whether it's a substance or whatever it is, I just generally should I say, don't think that our government or the powers that be or whatever you want to call it has any right to tell us as autonomous individuals what we can and can't do, provided it's not, you know, harming another sovereign individual's right to what they want to do.
Like, they have laws there to govern against people being assholes. Do you know what I mean? So that applies whether you're, you know, under the influence of drugs, alcohol, whatever. You're still not allowed to damage someone's property. You're still not allowed to, you know, harm somebody else physically, or you're not allowed to rob stuff. Those laws are there, you know. And the fact that, you know, the government, let's say, are going, oh, you'll be more likely to do those things if you'd taken these substances. Now, it's okay to drink the head off yourself. That's fine, because we've got loads of tax money from that. You can smoke fags, you can do whatever. That's fine. But you're not allowed to do these things because we think that that's going to make you more likely to break these other laws. Like, what? Like, that's a crazy situation to find ourselves in, I think. So, like, again, going back to, like, if 10 people are taking drugs, all 10 of those should have the autonomy and the sovereignty as adult human beings to be able to do that if they want to. And 9 of those people are going to be able to do so without any problems at all. And then the one person who does have a problem, I think that, yeah, that they should be supported properly and not criminalized and not ostracized because they have a health issue.
No,
That's
big
kind
time.
of the way that I'd see it.
I think Portugal has introduced that.
They've decriminalized drugs, so you can have, I think it's up to like a 10-day personal supply on you without getting prosecuted for drug possession. But after that, then they kind of start coming down hard on it. But if you want to smoke cannabis, if you want to do heroin, whatever you want to do, you're not going to be basically pulled into the justice system because of it.
Yeah, you're pulled into the health system.
Yeah, if it's a
If you're
problem
seen to,
for
if it's
you.
a yes, of course.
Yeah, and if you're not, then then who cares anyway? You're not doing any harm to anybody else. Maybe you are to yourself, but probably not any more so than you would be drinking pints in the pub 3 or 4 times a week, you know. So I think really, like, from a societal point of view, like, we have a very, like, we do kind of live in a nanny state, you know. Like, I don't think Ireland is seen as such, but like, under the EU umbrella, I think we've become very much a nanny state. Like, we don't have that much autonomy over what we do or what we're allowed to do, or, you know, it is all very heavily policed, really.
Yeah, I think so, and I think we have to take a certain part of the blame there as well, because and it's something that was kind of made obvious to me when I started having these conversations, because I'd ask somebody would they come on, and they'd say no, because they're afraid of, number one, what they'd say, and number two, the repercussions of what they said.
Yeah.
That, you know, someone was kind of going to come and get them.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way? We have this, I don't know, fear. I don't know if that's self-imposed or if it's been imposed on us by other people. But we do all have this kind of sheep herd mentality of, not raising your head above the parapet and not saying something that might cause offense, because the powers that be will come down on you and handcuff you or something. I don't know what the
Yeah.
fear is, but the fear seems to be there. It's a strange
I
one.
think it's a fear of being abandoned in a way for some people, that like if you express a particular opinion or a thought, or tell someone about a particular experience that's not kind of the status quo, or might seem a little bit out there, that there's a fear there that you're going to be sort of shunned a little bit, as maybe not kind of playing the game, so like think sometimes people are afraid to speak their mind because they don't know how the person opposite them is going to react. And I think the biggest fear is not that they're going to be like, oh, you're wrong, or anything else. It's going to be that the other person is like, oh, fuck, I don't want to talk to them anymore. They've all those crazy notions. Do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think one of the biggest fears that most people have is of being abandoned, whether it's by a close friend or by society in general or whatever. Like, people just want to comfortably fit in and be part of everything. You don't want to be excluded.
Well, I think there's a real deep ingrained evolutionary reason for that,
Oh
because
yeah,
we
yeah.
we grew up as kind of tribal people. We struggle, like, put it this way, the great example of that is in our prison system. A form of punishment is solitary confinement.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you're bundled in there with rapists and murderers and pedophiles and thieves and the worst of our
Better than being
society.
on your own.
Better than being on your own. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So there's this, I suppose, deep sense of there's a deep need to be taken in by your community and feel part of a community. And it's dangerous to have I suppose a thought that's contrary to the main group think, for fear that you'll be ostracized from
Yeah.
that group. But that's the beauty of the internet, I suppose. You can have your group. Your
It's still
group
a
can be
tribal thing,
worldwide.
isn't
It
it, though?
is
It's
very much so.
people that are kind of not necessarily not wanting to, but for one reason or another aren't fitting into the main tribe. They're going off and making other little tribes, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've kind of tried to create, at least here, with this whole
Yeah.
off the lead thing. It's something for like-minded people to almost rally themselves around, and it's not the psychedelics podcast, and it's not the fitness podcast, and it's not the musicians podcast. It's just,
Bit
I
of
don't know,
everything.
people being themselves without fear of pissing people off. Because I suppose one thing that all the guests have had in common is they're not afraid. They're not afraid. Full stop. They've got balls, because it does take balls to come on and put yourself out there, and not knowing what you're going to talk about. It's easier if,
Yeah.
if I brought you on and said, right, Joey, we're going to do an hour or 2 hours all on music. You come on and go, yeah, no problem, I can do that. But
Yeah.
when we could be talking about, homeopathy 1 minute and, psychedelics the next,
Yeah, yeah.
it's interesting. But getting back to the healing end of things and the different elements, what other ones? Because we'll move away from homeopathy, because I don't know
Yeah.
enough
I
about
think
it.
we've definitely laboured that one
Yes.
long
So
enough.
what are the other ones? Mindfulness. What do you
Yeah.
see?
Mindfulness and meditation. Yeah, the main one that I'm really into at the moment is sound healing, but it's all kind of relative. Like, everything is it kind of goes back to sort of mindfulness and being in the present moment, and all that kind of stuff. I think that a lot of people are kind of afraid of meditation, because there's this kind of idea out there that to meditate you have to be able to switch your brain off. So you can't switch your brain off. Like, your brain is always going. If you switch your brain off, you're gone. Like,
Yeah, you
you're,
stop breathing
yeah,
and
you're
your heart
you're
will stop
pretty much
beating.
dead. So that's not a good thing. Like, that's definitely not good. I think for mindfulness is really being just sort of aware of what's going on around you, and like living in the present moment in terms of, say, I suppose in an extreme case, if you're panicking, or if you're feeling anxious, or if you're feeling very just not good, that rather than getting engulfed by that you kind of like take a moment to like look around and like notice things around you. So, okay, here's my room, that's the light, there's the window, I'm looking out the window, the world is not on fire out there, everything's okay, and bringing yourself back to now, and realizing that anything that's causing you any kind of discomfort or suffering is usually something that already happened in the past that you can do nothing about, or it's something that may or may not happen in the future, which is pointless and to worry about anyway. So kind of bringing yourself always into the now, because that's all you're sure of anyway. So doing things like meditation, yoga, even sometimes music can all kind of, do that for you. It's kind of been able to, I think, not, as I say, not turning your brain off, but been able to step back from yourself and your thoughts in an objective, non-judgmental way. And I think that that's really key as well. So being able to kind of bring yourself into the present, recognize what thoughts are coming to your head. Like, I don't know about you, but like some of the thoughts I have are crazy. If I actually voice them out loud, people would think I'm absolutely proper moon. I think most people are the same. So it's important to be able to see those thoughts coming and recognize them and either laugh them off or maybe address them. Does something come in, like something that you're not happy with, like whether it's something to do with anger or resentment or fear, anything like that at all? It's good to be able to kind of take your little step back and go, oh, that's how I feel about that. I think that's okay, or that's not okay. I need to kind of address that. And I think that's, for me, what mindfulness and meditation is really all about, is kind of, just recognizing what's really going on in there, and then either just accepting it and giving yourself a break, or identifying things that you need to work on. And I think that that's what it's all about, for me anyway. Maybe other people might find it to be something totally different.
No, I'd be on the same page there. And there's an element of introspection that, a lot of introspection can be good, but certain types of introspection can be really, really fucking bad. We can use, I think mindfulness, awareness, and being in the present moment can be used as a stick to beat ourselves with as well. Do you know that kind of way? Like, we can get too in our own heads. Like, have you seen the movie, an animated movie, Inside Out?
No, I haven't heard. I've heard it's brilliant. I haven't seen it.
It's actually on. I only saw an ad for it on the telly yesterday. It's on this week on one of the Irish channels, but it should be available to download for anybody that's listening. But the concept is, there's 4 or 5 main characters, and they're all your emotions. So fear, anger, loneliness, whatever the emotions are, and it's the set, for want of a better term, of the movie is inside a little girl's head, and every so often anger will take the controls.
Oh,
and
brilliant.
so anger is in control of the child. And I think mindfulness is a great way of just understanding who's holding the reins, who's in control, and just being in touch with our emotions and realizing that we are, I suppose, fueled and driven and steered by our emotions, because we're a big bag of emotions, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes some of them have more control over what we say and do than others. And I know Angry Frano is a fucking scary character. Do you know that kind of way? I never want to introduce Angry Frano to my fiance or my kid, because do you know that kind of way? I think people become the angry Joy or the angry Frano, and they come home with that. And if you don't have the awareness to realize who you are in that present moment, it can be quite detrimental to yourself and to everyone around you.
Definitely. But I think you made a really good point there about you can kind of go too far with it as well, in terms of like focusing too much on what's going on in the mind and in the head, and not what's going on everywhere else. So like for meditation, I think, for me anyway, like to start off, like, and when I say meditation, that could be like sitting in a room, that could be like I don't know if you've ever been in a flotation tank.
Not yet.
Oh, you need to try it. You need to try it, definitely. It's not for everybody, but I think you'd really enjoy it. But
can you just lay that out for people who don't know what the hell you're talking about?
Yeah, so it's basically a sensory deprivation tank, or it can be a room. So it depends where you go. So there's actually, the first time I was ever in one was in Navan. There's one down in Bruce Hill. Yeah. It's a lovely guy called John that runs that place in there. It's really, really cool. That's kind of, I suppose, more of a tank kind of situation, where you go in, it's kind of just like a wet room. Let's say there's a shower and there's a whatever, and that you lock the door behind you and you get naked, and then you open the door of the tank and you go in, and the water is kind of maybe up to your knee, thereabouts.
As you stand in it,
as you're standing in it, yeah, it might even be that high up, but it's full of Epsom salts, and the temperature of it is the same temperature as your skin.
Yes,
so,
your body temperature.
Yeah, exactly. So you basically lie down in it and you float on it because of the salt. So you're not, so when you're floating in it, the room is completely dark as well, and it's soundproof, so you can't hear anything, you can't see anything, and you can't feel anything outside of your own self, basically. So you're not touching anything.
So it's like, just to flesh it out for people, it's like lying in the bath,
Yeah.
but your arse or your back isn't actually touching the bath itself.
Yeah.
You are literally floating.
Yeah, and it's a much bigger bath as well. So you could be like a starfish and you won't touch the wall.
Okay,
Well, sometimes
cool.
you kind of move around a little bit. Whatever,
What's
but-
that?
Yeah, exactly. Freak you out. But generally speaking, the idea is that you're not touching anything. You're completely weightless. Your body isn't having to do anything at
Yes.
all except just be and exist. So when there's the place that I go now, I haven't been for a while actually, but now that I'm talking about it, I'm going to book an appointment for next week or something. But that you can go in and you can have an hour of floating in the tank followed by a massage. Or you could have the massage and then go into the tank as well. Harvest Moon Centre is the name of the place, and it's absolutely deadly.
Where is this, sorry?
On Baggot Street in Dublin.
Harvest Moon Centre.
Harvest Moon Centre.
So if you just Google Harvest Moon Centre,
Google
up
Harvest
it'll
Moon
pop.
Centre. Yeah, exactly. So I'd highly recommend doing that. Like if you go in, have a massage and then go in, because then you're kind of already like really relaxed going in. You can do like your little bit of mindfulness, like kind of checking in again, like observing your thoughts and stuff like that. But eventually, once you've kind of all that done, then you sort of let go and you go into a deeper level of I don't know if you call it consciousness or subconsciousness, or I don't know, but it's like a deep state of relaxation and meditation. And it's at that point, I think that maybe that's what people talk about, like when they say you need to switch your brain off. I don't think it's really switching it off. It's just switching it to a different wavelength or a different frequency or whatever. Yeah. But I'd highly recommend it to anybody who's been thinking about doing it. Just go and do it. It's absolutely class.
I'm going to book one today.
Yeah,
I've been
you
threatening to
should.
do it for ages. I'm going to book one today. And I'm going to book your man in Navan because I'll do it quicker if I book it in Navan.
Exactly.
Who's your
yeah.
man? Give your man in Navan the plug.
His name is John. I can't think of his surname. It's ages since I was in there. But it's the Natural Health Clinic on Bruce Hill. So up across the road from O'Mahony's. That's where he
Yes,
is.
so if anyone's listening and they're in the Navan area, if you Google, I suppose, floatation tank Navan, Bruce
Yeah.
Hill, something like that.
I actually think there's only one in Dublin, which is the place that I go to, the Harvest Moon Centre, and then there's the one in Navan. I don't know if there's any other ones in Leinster even, maybe even in
Right.
the country. I don't know. There might be since the last time I looked it up, but they're very few and far between. So even if you go floatation tank Ireland, he'll probably come up.
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah, no, it's really good.
And feel free to give me a no comment answer here, but would you get high and get into it?
I don't really. I wouldn't. Not that I never would, but I haven't done. I've never done that.
Yeah.
But I know that it is kind of recommended for people to do it. But yeah, I never have.
Yeah, you've never felt the need. You get enough out of it without, basically.
Yeah. I definitely would probably give it a go, but no, I haven't done to this point anyway.
Yeah, no, I haven't done yet, but it's absolutely on my to-do list, 100%.
Yeah. Maybe go in definitely sober first. What I will
course.
say as well, the first time, I mean, you're going in and it's new and you're going to be just thinking about it, constantly. You're going to overthink it. You're going to be going, when does it get to this point? And, you'll be definitely in your head a lot the first time. So don't just book one session and never go again. Like, go and do the first one and then do another one. And your second one will probably be a lot better than your first one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Of course. To settle in, because you don't really know. It's not until you do something the second time. If you've only done something once, you've only experienced the first time doing it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
But sorry, how did we get talking about isolation tanks? I feel I cut
don't
across you
know.
or interrupted you.
We were talking about meditation, was it?
Yeah, it could have been. Oh, look, we'll go on.
Sure, who knows?
The different alternative practices, say. So we touched on homeopathy and meditation and mindfulness, and even the float tanks. Sound.
Oh yeah, so that was the thing. So yeah, in terms of meditation, like what I was talking about was kind of going that deeper level. So kind of starting off by acknowledging what's in your head and kind of doing that bit of work, but then going beyond that, like letting that kind of wash over you then and sort of going into the sort of the next level. And that's where I think sound healing and sound therapy comes in. So again, I'm very like I'm in like the baby infants class of all of this stuff. Like I'm
But
just
that's
totally new to all of it. So I'm saying like my very limited experience of all this stuff so far, which has been really, really positive, and maybe might make people go and like look it up themselves or get into it more themselves. But they're definitely not going to get any really concrete information from me.
but brilliant. I love that. I
Yeah.
love to hear. I love hearing from people who've dabbled in things as opposed to people who are experts, because people who've dabbled in things will give you an interest and let you make up your own fucking mind. Do you know
Yeah.
that kind of way?
Sure.
So sorry again.
So yeah, so the sound healing thing, basically I went and did a 2-day course, like a level 1 course in sound healing in the Celtic School of Sound Healing. So it's a place out in Swords, and the lady that does it, Carmel Divney, she has a background in all kinds of like sort of Celtic shamanism, sound healing, like loads of different cool things. She's an amazing lady, and the stuff that she was kind of teaching us was all to do with using the voice and using the likes of singing bowls and tuning forks and various kind of percussion instruments, and you know, kind of working with sound on a very basic level to achieve healing. So for example, each of, like, you know, that you have energy centers all around your body or whatever, so the 7 main ones, so your 7 chakras, which I don't know if you know much about this.
I
Again,
don't.
I'm
I
kind of
don't.
new to all this
Unfortunately.
too, but so you have 7 energy centers. So they go from like your root chakra, which is like basically where your ass bone is, like your coccyx, that's your like root chakra, and then they go all the way up your body, up as far as your crown, so that's your the top chakra or whatever. So, and then there's 5 in between. So each of those energy centers, it resonates more with particular notes on a scale. So for example, if you think of like a piano, and you go to the middle note, the middle C on it, that's the note that resonates most with your root chakra. And
Okay.
as you go up the body, it goes almost like up a scale on a piano. So it goes do 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 do. Very bad scale. So it does that. So each note has a particular frequency, and each frequency has a particular resonance with that part of your body. And each of those energy centers has things that are associated with it. So it could be types of feelings or different emotions, different kind of aspects of your life, let's say. And those energy centers can get kind of clogged up or get blocked, or different stuff can kind of mess with them as you go about your day-to-day life. So with sound healing, what you can do is you can kind of diagnose which, you know, part of your body is kind of struggling a little bit energetically, and you can use the likes of a singing bowl or your voice or a tuning fork or any of these kind of instruments to retune those energy centers and get them back into balance again. So again, this is the kind of stuff that I would say, like, you know, if you're listening to this going, oh, that's all a load of bollocks, like, go and check it out. Maybe have a sound healing therapy done on you, or go and research it a bit, because it is actually quite scientific, the way that it all kind of works. Like, even in terms of like ancient civilizations like the Egyptians with the pyramids and stuff, there's a lot of kind of theories now that a lot of these places were built for resonance of sound, so that people who were kind of chanting within them or using different instruments within them, that they were basically designed so that the echoes and the overtones and the harmonics of all these different sounds would have a healing effect on the body, which is pretty cool. But even if you think about like ultrasound, so you that's recently had a baby, so
Yeah.
you well, not you didn't have the baby, you were involved, but you would have went to get a scan, probably in the hospital or whatever. And the way that that works, the ultrasound, what happens is the implement that's used, let's say, it sends sound waves essentially down into the cells, reverberates, and that's what creates the picture, which is the sonogram. So that in itself is just incredible in terms of how like frequencies and sound can be used to like manifest like physical effects, even in the form of a picture. Or another example could be that you can use different frequencies to help to cure kidney stones, to break up kidney stones and to shrink tumors and stuff like that. You use kind of different vibrations and frequencies to do all of that. So sound healing, it's like very, very broad, but it's kind of I suppose the thing that got me into it was thinking about music and why music is so important to so many people and why it resonates with so many people. And in terms of if you listen to a happy song and you're in a good mood, or if you're, you know, if you listen to a sad song, or if you listen to even like real angry music, you know, punk music, whatever, it has an effect on you. And I suppose with the sound healing basics, what they're doing is kind of stripping back all of that, and it's kind of showing you why it's having an effect on you and how it's having an effect on you. So for example, the certain key that it's in could be affecting a particular part of your body which is associated with certain feelings. So it's on a very, very basic level. Like one note can make you feel this way, or, you know, invoke this kind of a feeling in you. And then an overall song is kind of doing that on a much, much grander scale, if that makes sense.
Oh no, it does, absolutely. Like all you have to think of is that kind of that tune in Jaws, you know, the dun,
Yeah. Why did you
dun.
talk about Jaws?
I don't know. I really don't know. But I must have watched it recently or something. But you know that piece, that dun, nobody I don't think has ever listened to that and went, "Oh, what a lovely tune."
Yeah,
You
you
know,
listen and go, "Oh fuck."
it's a fearful tune. It's like fuck, and
Yeah.
that's fascinating. I love that. And I think we're very much in our infancy of that. To me is a very new area ripe for discovery. Do you know that kind of way?
Definitely,
And especially because of the way it's been kind of, it's very easily dismissed as bollocks.
Yeah.
And I'm not as quick to jump the gun as I used to be, but that area that you just kind of outlined there would be fascinating to me. It really, really would. And I think it kind of flies in the face of kind of the more traditional stuff, and especially the pharmacological route.
Yeah.
But is there anywhere in, like, where could you go to get this? Where was that place that you went? Was that in Ireland, or where was it?
Yeah, it was out in Swords.
Okay.
But there's somewhere much closer to home. So up at the Hill of Tara, which is like my favourite place in the whole world for lots of reasons. But they have a little open studio up there. So you've got Maguire's coffee shop, and then kind of a little bit further down, you've got this little kind of, it doesn't look like much from the outside. It looks like a little kind of old cottage or something like that. But it's kind of all revamped and turned into this yeah, it's called Tara Open Studio, and downstairs is kind of an art gallery. There's an amazing artist up there called Courtney Davis, and he runs the place basically. So some of his art is there on display, and it's kind of like, you know, a little sort of like a little hippie shop, you know, like they have crystals and incense and cool clothes, all that kind of stuff. And then you go up the stairs and there's this gorgeous room, and it's all kind of done out like in gorgeous art and lovely rugs, and then they've got big gongs on the walls as well, and like just a lovely little sacred space, basically. That's what it is. And they do loads of cool stuff up there. Like they do like meditation sessions. There's a guy, he'd be a good friend of mine, Rob Hayes, who I did a 9-week meditation course with him. It wasn't really meditation, it was kind of meditation, I suppose, like shamanic healing kind of thing. He does a lot of stuff up there. He does like regular kind of Wednesday evening meditations that you can kind of book in for or whatever. It's like a 2-hour thing. Or there's other people that do like sound baths, which I think sounds really nice. It's like a bath of sound.
Okay.
So what they would do in that case would be like, yeah, some sort of like a little meditation to kind of get you all sort of relaxed and everything. You'd be lying on the ground on a mat with a blanket, all comfy. And then they start using these kind of different instruments. So whether it's drums, rattles, gongs, tuning forks, all different types of stuff. There's another instrument called a shruti box that sometimes they would, like a droney kind of a noise. And they basically like just bathe everybody in sound. So it's kind of like a type of meditation or a type of sound healing as well, which is pretty cool. So there's probably loads of other places as well that like if people Google sound bath or, you know, sound healing or, you know, meditation, anything like that at all, it's all out there to be found if you go looking for it, for sure. And I definitely recommend going up and doing that stuff at the Hill of Tara. It's a perfect place to do it.
And is there a website for that place you mentioned?
Yeah, they're on Facebook anyway, Tara Open Studio. There might be a website.
Well, look, Tara Open Studio will get them on Facebook.
Yeah.
If they have a website, the link will be there. But again, that's the beauty of getting people in from like the different loops. You're opening up a whole world of things, sound healing and all sorts of stuff to people, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something there, the kind of hippie vibe of that place.
Yeah.
That can be very off-putting, I think, to a lot of people. So
Sure.
you talk to me, let's say, or anyone about this idea of sound healing and the different chakras and that, and you can lose people very quickly, but the few that do stay, so I'm hanging in there and I'm going, okay, right, yeah, okay, okay, sounds kind of a bit kind of woo woo and a bit
The airy
bit,
fairy.
bit airy fairy and a little bit of horseshit, but no, look, I'll give it a chance, I'll give it its dues, and then you walk in and there's people sitting on the floor and there's rugs on the wall and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, do you know that kind of way?
There is all of that, but what I will say is that the 9-week course that I did with Rob, I think I was probably the youngest person there. I'm 31. Am I 31? 32? 31. Yes, 31. And it was people of kind of all ages, all backgrounds, men and women, everybody there for kind of different reasons, different motivations, all with the one thing in common, that they were there to try and improve themselves or improve something, or get better. That's when you go to these things, that's the one thing that everybody always has in common, that everybody's there to try and either get better at something or be better in general, which is lovely. So if you kind of get past the wind chimes everywhere and the dream catchers all over the
all
place,
that stuff,
all that kind of crack. I mean, I love all that stuff, but I know it's not for everybody. But if you kind of sort of get through all of that and just give it a chance, you'll be sitting on the floor, and there'll probably be sort of airy fairy conversations or whatever. But once you get into it and you get past all of that and just give it a chance, it's really, really, really beneficial.
Yeah, no, I must check them out now, because again, I'm into kind of self-improvement and finding out new things about new people and stuff and all that. It's all good stuff, and I think there's a real appetite for that kind of stuff these days, more so than ever. There seems to be these things like flotation tanks and sound healing and all these different things that seem to be kind of popping up all over the place, and I think it's because people are fed up with the bullshit of modern life, and they're kind of getting bored and frustrated with it, and they're getting back to basics, basically.
Yeah, there was something, I don't know if I heard this recently or if I came up with it myself in some sort of a thought at some point, but this kind of, and it keeps coming back to me, but it's just inward is the way forward. So, and I think what it means to me, again, I don't know if I stole it from someone or if I thought of it myself, but like, I think a lot of people are getting very frustrated with our political system at the moment, and there's all we've the health crisis, we've all these different crises going on in the country at the moment, and people are looking at the people in power going, they're not doing anything about it, they don't care. In fact, they're literally just lining their pockets and allowing all this to happen. I think people are becoming more aware of the fact that you can take control of your own life. So in a systemic kind of a way, okay, the government stuff is important, but in your day-to-day life, Leo Varadkar is not going to be responsible for your happiness in a day-to-day sense. Do you know what I mean? And nor should he be. But a lot of people are getting so disillusioned and disenfranchised with how all that stuff is going, that they're sort of just fed up of it, to the point that they're kind of looking more to their immediate surroundings and to their own selves, and they're kind of going, well, what can I do here to make my own life a bit better? I can't get all those hundreds of people off hospital trolleys up in the hospitals or whatever, but maybe I can improve my attitude about what I can do, or maybe I can I think people are just, I don't know if it's even conscious for a lot of people, but I think there is definitely this big kind of movement of people coming very much back to basics and wanting to spend more time in nature. If they're living in the city, they'll go off somewhere where there's grass and a beach at the weekends, because they're connecting more with nature and more with themselves and more with their immediate surroundings, which I think is how we will make all of this stuff much better. If everybody was doing a little bit of work on themselves, then the whole world would be a much better place, rather than looking all the time at the people that are sitting in the Dáil or wherever, looking to them to make everything better. If you're looking to improve yourself, you're going to inspire others around you to improve themselves. And if everybody is constantly doing that little bit, then everybody will be moving in the right direction, really.
I might just cut the last 60 seconds or so and have it as an ad for this podcast.
I thought you were going to say, because that was a load of shit. I'm going to cut it out in the podcast.
Cut it out completely. Cut it out completely. No, definitely. No, 100%. I could not agree with you anymore if I tried. I genuinely couldn't. And I think that I keep harping on about this message of, we're in control. We're steering our own ships, like, do you know, that kind of way. And
Yeah.
I've been harping on a lot recently about this idea of how you create your own reality, and guess what? Other people live in that reality. So why not create a good reality for your fucking self and everybody around you,
Yeah.
and just disengage with, you know, politics and the media and the news and the radio, and all that is just nonsense. That's just bad noise. Do you know, that kind
Yeah.
of way? That's just, it's nothing. It's to be ignored. Work on yourself and get your own fucking shit together before you start going out and criticizing the world.
Clean up your room.
Clean up your room. Yes, this is both
Yeah,
what we're
yeah.
both saying, that there's echoings of himself, Mr. Peterson.
Definitely. Yeah.
There
Yeah, for
absolutely is,
sure.
and there's no. It's no wonder why he's exploded in popularity. For those of you that don't know who the fuck I'm talking about, it's a guy called Jordan Peterson. He came up briefly before we came out and started doing this podcast. How would you introduce somebody to him?
I told you that he was on Tinder. I thought that's what you were going to say.
Hilarious, yeah. I'd forgotten about that. You met him on Tinder.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
I swiped right. And so did he. I messaged him. He didn't message me back. I'm heartbroken.
But so, who is you? How did you? Because in order, you said you saw him on Tinder, but that obviously wasn't your
No,
first.
it was some lad after making up the profile. I just thought it
course.
was hilarious. So I was like, I'm going to swipe right and see what happens. I just wanted to congratulate him and be like, this is hilarious. And I did that. And that was it.
You
Like, we were not going on a date or anything like that.
I can only assume, I can only hope that so many people swipe right that you got lost in a
I
mass of
hope
people.
so. I hope so.
But how did you get introduced to him in the first place?
Through Joe Rogan.
Yeah, like most people, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So there was some, like, I'd subscribed to Joe Rogan, and I think whatever the tagline was on it, I can't even remember what it was, but it was something like, it was kind of don't push the red button kind of esque thing. It was kind of like, if you don't like this will make you angry. It was something like that. It was like real clickbaity, to be
Yes,
honest.
yes.
But it fucking worked on me. I sort of
Clickbait
went,
works.
who is this guy and what's he? How is he going to make me angry? So I went into it, and it was just after there was all that stuff in the university where he was after getting into loads of trouble because of the pronoun stuff or whatever. So I thought this was really interesting. I fully expected that this guy is going to be a horrible person. He's going to make me very angry. He's going to be anti everything I believe in and stand for. And about 20 minutes in, I thought, this man is brilliant. Like, what is people's problem? Do you know what I mean? I just couldn't get why he was under such fire about all this stuff. I kind of just thought he's a very first of all, like, incredibly smart guy, like very, very intelligent, very, like, the man's a genius, I think, probably, you know, and just a really good understanding of the nature of people, and especially the nature of people that we all wish we didn't have in us, you know, like that kind of he talks about the shadow side and all of that, and he kind of says a lot of things, like he talks about, like, he stereotypes a bit, you know what I mean, but he does that from his clinical research and from his you know, from all the experience that he has. He'll say, you know, say men of this particular type are more likely to do this, or women in this position are more likely to do that. And I think nowadays that gets people's backs up, because they don't like to be kind of put into a group, let's say, or they don't want to be pigeonholed.
Yeah.
So and he does pigeonhole, but it's from a place of superb knowledge about, you know, these kind of groups of people. But anyway, when I was watching that particular podcast, it was whatever 3 hours long, I went straight on to his own channel then, and like watched loads of his videos and listened to loads of his podcasts, and he can just do no wrong, really, in my eyes. Like, I just think he's an incredible man. I think everybody needs to listen to him.
No, I
He
couldn't.
doesn't pay me. I'm not getting paid to say this, but
Again, I couldn't agree more. I would disagree with one thing that you said, though, when you referred to him as a genius, or you might have said kind of a genius, because there's an element of what he's saying, to me at least, that I find really, really fucking basic. Do you know that kind of way? Like, nothing overly insightful. It's insightful because you haven't heard of it before. But once you kind of go down it, it just makes so much sense. To me, it's just so kind of basic, I suppose, is the word for it. But the genius in it is that only 4 of them, I wouldn't have been aware of it. As basic as it is. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah. I think it's the way that he rationalizes things and the way that the thought process that he has about it. Like when he's been interviewed, he'll take a little pause and you can almost see the cogs turning in his head. And that's why I think he's a genius. It's the process that he uses to come up with the stuff that he says. It just, the way that his brain works is absolutely incredible. It's so rational. And I think that what you're saying there about it being so basic is so true, but that's very true about a lot of things. Like if you ever have a revelation about something, it's usually, well, for me anyway, if I do, it usually feels like I haven't really learned something. I've remembered something, or I've, relearned something. And I think that his ability to make you feel like that when you're listening to what he's saying is genius in and of itself. I think he's an amazing communicator, and the way that he articulates himself is at a level that you don't see all the time.
Now I would agree with you.
Yeah, so that's, I suppose, that's kind of what I meant by I think he's a genius.
And have you been tidying your room?
Yeah, I keep my room very tidy. I also mess it up a lot, but I do. No, I would always make my bed before I leave the house in the morning. Like I wouldn't leave my room without making the bed, and I would like kind of keep it fairly tidy. And I do find that if it is a bit messy, like my room, my house, whatever, my office, where like my space, if it's really messy, it affects me in a big way. Definitely, it makes me kind of, I don't know, antsy or nervous or something like that. I much prefer a tidy space.
Yeah, no, I think most people will kind of get that if their car is dirty, or even I suppose the time when you really notice it is, you don't notice it when your house or your bedroom or your car or your office, you don't notice it when it's a mess. You notice it when you tidy it all up and you sit down and you just go, ah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's when you notice. You're like, Jesus Christ, that really was. Because I find it here, like the lawn is annoying me at the minute because I haven't been able to mow it.
Well, it's covered in snow now.
That's very true too. I'm off the hook today, exactly. But like when the hedges are kind of pushing out over the driveway a little bit more than they should, and the lawn hasn't been mowed as recently as it should, that stuff kind of gets in on your psyche a little bit, I think. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that kind of Peterson has made me that bit more aware of, is that how we're affected by our environment and how we're in control of our environment.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah, and that's what I think a lot of people don't like to hear. Like that people don't like being told, yeah, your life is a little bit shit at the moment, but you probably have a lot to do with that yourself. That's not a nice thing to hear. People don't want to acknowledge that, and I'm not saying that that's the case in every situation, but a lot of people are unhappy for reasons that are within their own control. But sometimes when you're in that frame of mind, you don't want to hear about solutions or how things can get better. You just want sympathy, or you want somebody to go, yeah, no, you're right to feel like that. And yeah, you should feel like shit. It's okay to feel like shit, rather than going, well, maybe if you got up off your arse and did A, B, and C, everything else would improve drastically. And I think there's a big element of that in what he talks about, Jordan Peterson. It's a big kick up the hole to a lot of people, and often people don't want that kick up the hole. They just want to kind of wallow for a little while and be told that it's okay, like they're justified in how they're feeling, which I think is really detrimental to people sometimes.
No, absolutely. And I think that's why you see a lot of outward anger against the government or the man or the patriarchy, or whatever it is, the 1%, the ruling class, call it what you will. There's a lot of talk about what they're doing wrong and how we can't get by, and a little bit of fucking introspection and a little bit of realizing that you're in control of your own kind of life and your own destiny. Of course, to a degree, absolutely, absolutely. But I genuinely do think that we kind of create our own reality, and our outlook is everything. If there's a great quote, I think it's a Henry Ford quote: whether or not you think you can or can't do something, you're right. Yeah. And there's great.
It's a real salesy thing. I forgot you worked in sales.
Oh,
that's like something that's on the notice board in the sales training room.
It's funny. There's something that I've recently started thinking about. This kind of we often hear about this kind of Eastern wisdom, but I think Western wisdom has been demonized to a degree because it's like, oh, when did you learn that? Was it at your team building exercise at work or something? Like, this thing, like, there's no I in team. It's like, oh, roll the eyes, and you're just fucking boring. But if that was, written in Chinese and translated, it's like, oh yeah, the wisdom of the East,
Yeah, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of kind of Western wisdom that has been tainted by that kind of self-help bullshit.
Yeah.
But aside from Peterson, is there anybody else that springs to mind as a kind of as an influence on just your way of thinking, either recently or in the past? Or
Yeah, there's a few different people, like Alan Watts.
I haven't got into Alan Watts.
Oh, his voice. If nothing else, even if you think what he's saying is total nonsense, just listen to his voice.
But that's why I can't get into him.
He's amazing. Was amazing. Yeah, what have you read any of his books, or have you been looking at him online?
I'm not a massive reader. I listen to things endlessly, and with Watts, when I listen to him, he tends to talk. Does he do a lot of that? And that kind of puts me off.
I love the way I just love the way he speaks. Same with like Terence McKenna. Again, like what he's saying is amazing, but I enjoy even more so the sound of his voice. Like I just think it's amazing. Alan Watts has a book called The Way of Zen, and you can get it on Audible, and I'd highly recommend. I think I actually sent it to Ivor when I was finished listening to it, because I'd say if it was on pages in front of me, I probably would have given up halfway through it, because I don't have good concentration. I need to learn to read good. But on Audible, it's a really good one to kind of just listen to in the car, or just a little bit a day. I'd highly recommend it. Like,
I'll
some
definitely,
really, really good wisdom in there.
I'll definitely give it a go. But what's the key things? Because we kind of mentioned what Peterson has given both of us, but what has Watts given you, say?
Yeah, so he talks about consciousness a lot, and the idea of God, and God being the universe or the collective consciousness. And he would talk about, like, there's a quote in the book that I loved. He talks about different Eastern philosophies and different religions and stuff like that, but he's talked about Hinduism, and he says Hinduism is God playing hide and seek with himself. And he's just loads of like really good little quotes like that. But the main, I suppose, sentiments that I take from him is it basically just to do with not living in the mind as well, like that, kind of learning to acknowledge what's going on in your mind, but not living there in a broader sense, that like kind of focusing more on your intuition and what you feel rather than what you think. Now that's a very, very basic little synopsis of Alan Watts. Like, he's a very, very well-read, incredibly intelligent man. He was kind of one of the first people to really bring Eastern philosophy to the Western world in a way that people could really understand it. But he was very kind of anti-capitalism, not anti-capitalism, but anti-buying too much into capitalism.
Yes.
Very anti-television, or again, like too much television, and just more kind of very into the taking personal responsibility for your own life. Like, I really think you'd like him if you kind of got into him.
Well, you hit all the right notes there with the few things you just said. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you would.
And does he narrate his own audiobook?
No, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm
imagine my
intrigued.
Disappointed. Oh my God, I was heartbroken. No, it's some American guy, and he does a perfectly fine job. He's no Alan Watts, but but it's probably good for you that he doesn't, then, because you'll be able to listen to it a bit easier.
It's funny though, because there's a lot of people that kind of fall into that. The way Watts spoke. Alistair Campbell was kind of the same. Have you gone down an Alistair Campbell? Is it even Alistair Campbell?
I don't know.
I might be getting the first name. I'm fairly sure it's Campbell.
Joseph Campbell?
There we go.
I have The Hero with a Thousand Faces in my Audible at the moment. I'm about I thought I was about a third of the way through it, but it's got it's like 13 hours or something ridiculous.
Right.
Like, it's long. But I can't remember. Maybe it was Jordan Peterson mentioned it, and I was like, oh, I want to. You see, I walk to work and home. So rather than listening to traffic on the way down North Circular Road, I usually stick on Audible or a podcast or whatever. So I'd recommend that to anybody who's commuting or walking anywhere on a regular basis. Like, queue up something to listen to on your way there and back. It's a great way to kind of just get it in there.
Yeah.
But I was listening to the to Joseph Campbell one on my way to work, and it was too much. I'd get to work and I'd take my headphones out, and I was like, just kind of mind blown. It wasn't good for the time that I was listening to it. So I need to kind of go back to it in a different frame of mind. It's not good for when you just first wake up in the morning, put it that way. It's not that kind of book.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
heavy. Yeah, there's a lot going on. But what were you going to say about him?
About who? Sorry,
About Joseph Campbell.
Yeah, I think Campbell, Watts, and Aubrey Marcus would be the other guy that springs to mind.
I love Aubrey Marcus.
But they all have that same kind of way of speaking. It drives me nuts. I don't know what it is, but it's so funny because all the people who are kind of... Ivor has a touch of it as well. That kind of slow and calm, and it's almost the stereotypical voice of somebody who's running a kind of a meditative group. And there's something, I don't know what that is.
It could be just somebody who's used to meditating a lot. You know, that they kind of take their time with everything that they're saying. Like, you know, they're not like up to 90 all the time and trying to get all this stuff out. It's just that it's more kind of measured and calm the way that they're speaking. I don't know, maybe not.
No. It sounds about right, because all those people, they have what they have in common is that they're all very thoughtful people. I think it's fair to say, and they've all
definitely
would have had more than enough kind of introspection, and they're all very comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't have to talk about 100 miles an hour to get the point across. Blah, 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 blah. Do you know that kind of way? They're more relaxed and they can take it. I don't know. There's something... Patronising is probably far too strong a word, but there's an element of that in all of them, I think. But
I'm sure it's not intentional. I think it is more kind of like if you're speaking to somebody who's like really, you know, wired or whatever, then you kind of match that with your own energy. Likewise, if you're speaking really slowly and calmly and taking time to get your words out, you're basically inviting the other person to do the same thing. So it's kind of a way to sort of calm people as well, I think, and to kind of bring people into the present moment of the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you listen to Blind Boy Boat Club by any chance?
I've only just joined the Blind Boy Boat Club party. The chap is fucking mean.
He is,
but
isn't
he's
he?
brilliant. He's brilliant. I'm enjoying his podcast. I've only the first one I heard was the one where he interviewed Kevin Barry.
I was at that.
You were actually at that one?
Yeah, he read out my question. I was delighted with myself.
What question did you ask him?
It was about Barry. It was about how I'd read on his Wikipedia page that he has an enormous ego, like an astronomically big ego. He wants to be the best writer in the world and wants to kill every other writer. Kind of like, you know, pathological ego.
Right.
But I asked, was that instrumental in being the great writer that he is now? Is it almost necessary to, like, you know, ego gets a bad rap, I think, as do a lot of things. But I just wanted to know what the utility in having a big ego was. So that was basically my question.
Right.
But on Blind Boy, so the first one you listened to was when he was down in Dolan's in Limerick.
Yeah, and I thought that one was brilliant. And then I kind of went back to the start, and I think I'm maybe 3 in from the start now.
Yeah.
So I love his short stories. Like, they're absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
He's an incredibly talented writer.
It's funny, I'm not gone on his short stories.
Really?
Yeah, I love him. I'd listen to him endlessly. I like his short stories, but I don't know, it's just it wouldn't be the highlight for me by any stretch of the imagination. And look, I'm not saying they're bad or good, or it just doesn't float my boat for whatever. But the reason that I mentioned him was that whole podcast hug that he gives. You've heard him mention that, have you?
Yeah, the ambient music and all that kind of stuff.
And just the way he speaks nice and slowly and all the rest of it. And he gives a podcast hug, and I think people are kind of craving that. It's a little hour a week of what you were saying there a minute ago about these other guys and how they speak. When they speak calmly and collectively and purposefully, you absolutely do kind of go, okay, right, relax, everything's not going 100 million miles an hour. And that's what people crave, and that's what people love, is this podcast hug that he's created.
Yeah.
And I found with the few solo ones podcasts that I've done, I'm not like that at all. I tend to be quite riling and fast and kind of in your face, and I'm starting to think that my solo episodes are a podcast kick up the hole as opposed to a podcast hug, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's just
But
something that
both
I'm kind of
are
tying with.
equally valuable, I think.
Oh yeah,
You
there's
don't want to just be
none's.
hugged all the time.
Yes,
You don't want to be kicked up the hole all the time either.
But you
Nice
see,
balance.
but you're right there, and balance is such an important thing, and you nail it there just with the word balance, because I tend to give myself a kick up the hole far too often, and I think some people tend to give themselves a podcast hug far too often. Do you know that kind of
Yeah,
way?
yeah.
You need a bit of both, and there's balance. That's where the balance kind of comes in.
Definitely, yeah.
Because you'd be fairly balanced, because you're,
Would I?
wouldn't you? Well,
I
you're.
don't know, Jesus.
Well, look, you're recording an album. You're you're a musician. You've got your artistic talents that you're kind of focusing on. Plus, I'm sure you have a job, and you pay your bills, and you're into all these different things, and there's a certain amount of balance there.
Yeah, I suppose there is. Yeah.
What was I going to say? We mentioned psychedelics a couple of times. I think I don't know if it was Ivor or Kev that was telling me, had a different experience with the psychedelics.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you had a different experience than, say, Ivor.
Yeah.
Can we talk a bit about that? Because I'm just conscious of not getting to that, and I think it's an important one, and one that kind of encapsulates a lot of what we've been talking about for the past while.
Sure.
So how did that come about?
So, I'm trying to think of how far back to go. Well, I had heard about ayahuasca years ago through a friend of mine who had gone out to the Amazon a couple of times, and I remember him telling me about it, and I thought, that sounds absolutely horrific. Like, why would anybody go and do that to themselves? It's absolutely crazy. And then as kind of years went on, I sort of, like, through different experiences I had myself, I became more intrigued by it, and I kind of started to understand why maybe people would do it. And I kind of, thought to myself, maybe kind of in my mid-20s, that it was something that I would kind of like to do at some point. Go out to Peru, and I'd always wanted to go to Peru anyways, even from when I was a little kid. Like the Incas and all that kind of stuff really interested me. I had an uncle living in Paraguay in South America, and I remember reading encyclopedias all about South America in general, and all like the history and all that kind of stuff. So it was always kind of there in the ether somewhere that I wanted to go and explore Peru at some point. And then kind of life got in the way, and I never really did it. And then Ivor, who is my little sister's fiance, soon to be baby daddy. They've got a baby coming in the next month.
Yeah.
It's her birthday today, actually. So happy birthday, Elaine, if you do hear this. Well, you won't hear today, but anyway. So anyway, they were living in Australia for 4 years, and I think it was really over there that Ivor kind of got into a lot of the stuff that he'd be into now. So, meditation. He hates the word spirituality, I think.
I was going to say spirituality.
Well.
Yeah.
That's such a cringy word, but you know what I mean. But consciousness and the exploration of consciousness and all that kind of stuff. I think that's where Ivor kind of got into a lot of that, or sort of developed his interest in it. And when they were coming back from Australia, he had decided, or they had been home, I think, for a trip. Maybe it was for Christmas or something like that. And that's when he had told me about Joe Rogan, and told me about Graham Hancock and all this, like, kind of gave me a few little sort of signposts to different people and different subjects or whatever that he'd been kind of looking into. So then they went off back to Australia, and when they were coming back home for good, he decided that he was going to go to Peru. So Elaine was going to come home. He's going to go to Peru for the couple of weeks or whatever with the lads, and go to the jungle. So anybody who hasn't heard his podcasts should at this point probably go back and listen to those. So it really, I suppose, inspired me. Him going really inspired me and made me kind of realize, like, that is really something that I do want to do, and I couldn't wait to talk to him about it when he came back. And obviously he's very open about the whole thing. He wrote a blog about it, the whole lot, and I was really intrigued by his experience. So and again, like, I sort of knew other people that were kind of involved in this kind of thing as well. So I was kind of doing a lot of research and a lot of chatting to people or whatever. And then over time, I mentioned Graham Hancock there. I got very into kind of his work and his books, and into John Anthony West, who's like Actually, he just passed away recently as well.
The Egyptologist.
Yeah. So he was a writer originally, like, and he used to work in marketing, and he was one of the sort of madmen on Madison Avenue. Like, that was kind of where he started. But anyway, it was just like a fountain of knowledge about ancient Egypt and all these I suppose alternative views of ancient history. I got really into all of that, and I remember chatting to Ivor one of the days about possibly going over. John Anthony West did these guided tours of Egypt. You could go over and go on your holidays to Egypt with him, and he would bring you around to all these different places that he's written about, made documentaries about, all that kind of stuff. And I kind of had it in my head that I wanted to go and do that. So that was more of a priority for me than going to Peru. So I actually emailed him, as in John Anthony West, and he emailed me back and everything. He's
No
like,
way.
yeah, I still have an email from him. I mean, it
Class.
wasn't like,
Yeah, but
it was like,
still.
hello, yes, blah, blah, blah. Like, it wasn't really, wasn't anything major, but I thought it was really cool that he emailed me back himself. But the trip, I think it was maybe in October, it was around Halloween that I kind of decided I'd like to go on the trip the following year. And so emailed John. John emailed me back, and he had a trip in February, which I didn't think I was going to be able to make. I wasn't going to have enough money together or whatever. So he had one kind of later on the following year. So I sort of decided, right, I'm going to go and do that one. And I remember Ivor saying to me, it was we were down actually at their house in Cavan. It was around Halloween, and there was going to be fireworks, and he was doing this outdoor barbecue, and all, like, it was kind of a family thing. And I was chatting to him outside when he was doing the barbecue, and he just said about going to Egypt. He was like, it's one of those things that you just, like, don't be waiting until everything is aligned and everything's in place and you have enough money. Like, just book it and then figure out how to do it.
Great advice.
Brilliant advice. And funnily enough, I ended up applying that to something completely different. It wasn't even to Egypt that I did apply. But we had that conversation, and I decided that that's what I was going to do. And then a couple of months later, less than 2 months later, out of kind of nowhere, really, without warning and with no real kind of signs of it happening, my dad died really suddenly. He had an aneurysm, and it was a couple of weeks before Christmas, and it was just really kind of obviously very traumatic, very devastating, just
Of course, Jesus.
horrible, horrendous experience or whatever. But obviously for the first few weeks after it happened, it was kind of the trauma and the shock and the pain and the sadness and all of that was all happening. But something else was kind of happening alongside of that, which was that I kind of got this sort of overwhelming feeling that there's a big, I suppose, learning opportunity here for me and for everybody that's affected by any kind of like life-changing event. Like, when something like that happens, whether it's a bereavement, or maybe it's an illness, or it could be a job loss, or it could be loads of different things, but anything kind of life-changing is kind of, it's like, I suppose, if you compare it to like a volcano erupting, there's the lava and there's the destruction and there's the mayhem, but after that, when the lava cools, it's really fertile soil. You can grow loads of things out of it. And I kind of felt like that's sort of where I was going with the whole thing. So I thought, right, Egypt will wait. I'm not going to bother with Egypt. I really got this overwhelming sense that I should go to Peru, that this was the right time to go to Peru, and that at this point I'd never had more to gain or to give to the experience than I did at that time. So I thought, with Ivor's advice about like just booking it and then figuring out how to do it, I applied that to Peru. So I just kind of started doing loads of research, and initially the idea was that I was going to go and do pretty much the same trip that he'd done. So he went over under the guidance of this American guy called Razam, I think. Or
Yeah,
Razam.
no, I think that's it, yeah.
Yeah, so he had kind of said, I'd highly recommend going with him. He'll be doing a trip later in the year. You should look into doing that. So I looked it up, and turned out that yes, he was doing a trip to the same place, to Percy's place, but I was bridesmaid at a wedding that week, so obviously I could not do that. So one of my best mates was getting married, so I couldn't make that one. So I went, okay, well, what other trips are available out there? So I started kind of doing some intense Googling and looking all around to see like what other options were there. So I came across my intention going over there, I suppose I should just say, was to do ayahuasca. I thought, right, not that I thought, okay, going to do ayahuasca is going to help me to get over my dad dying. Obviously, like, that was never going to happen. But I felt like it was this experience that I really wanted to have, and I was so open to learning everything and just open in general that I thought, okay, now's probably the right time to go and do this. And it might help with some of the healing or whatever. It might give me a bit of a perspective on it or whatever. So I was searching ayahuasca this, ayahuasca that, looking like whereabouts can you do it? Is it all in the jungle? Because, you know, the idea of being in the jungle for a couple of weeks by myself with a load of strangers. Oh, this was the thing. I was going by myself as well. So I thought, don't know about the safety aspect of going to the jungle. Also, I'm absolutely terrified of spiders. So I thought, you know, I don't know if maybe it's a blessing in disguise that this guy's trip was clashing with something else. Like maybe that's not the right thing for me to do. So just totally by chance, I came across this website called Soul Remedy. Soulremedy.org, I think it is. And it is this couple from Seattle. So it'd be kind of roughly our age, kind of like early 30s or whatever. And they were hosting a retreat up in the Andes Mountains, so just outside Cusco, for a couple of weeks in July. I think it was the first 2 weeks of July. And they had done loads of different, they'd worked a lot with different plant medicines and different kind of modalities of healing and all that kind of stuff. They seemed like really, really interesting, cool people. And they were, you know, doing this retreat. But it wasn't just going to be an ayahuasca retreat. There was other elements involved as well. And there was a mention of San Pedro or Wachuma. And I had heard this mentioned before, but I didn't really know what it was. So I said, okay, there was a link from their website to this other website where they were actually, they were based in Seattle, but the retreat was going to be in Cusco. And the people running the retreat in Cusco were actually originally South African, but they've been living there for 2 decades or whatever. It's this amazing woman called Leslie Myberg, a South African woman, and her 2 sons who are twins, and their names are Mark and Simon. So together they run a hostel in Cusco, and they also run this mountain house retreat, which is Leslie's actual house. And they do they do ayahuasca retreats down the road in this other guy's house, an actual Peruvian shaman's house. But in Leslie's house, they do these San Pedro Wachuma kind of retreats or whatever. So I thought I'd kind of look into that a little bit more and do a bit more reading. And it turned out that so Wachuma is a cactus, a South American cactus, and up until the conquistadors came, whatever, 600 years ago, it was used on a regular basis in kind of religious ceremonies and as part of their religious practice, their spiritual practice or whatever, in Peru. But when the Spanish came, it was outlawed, but as were many, like obviously they were trying to bring Christianity or whatever, and they didn't want any other sort of stuff going on, so they outlawed Wachuma, which is basically, the cactus, which contains mescaline, which you make into a tea, let's say, and do sort of a ceremony around it. So they weren't allowed to do that anymore. And if they were found to be doing it, they'd be killed, simple as. So like loads of people were being murdered because they were still working with Wachuma. So during this kind of time, and they were trying to kind of force Catholicism on people, they were teaching people about saints. And St. Peter came up. And they were kind of teaching them, well, St. Peter is the keeper of the gate to heaven. And the local Peruvian people were kind of the Incas were kind of going, well, that's what Wachuma is. It's like the key to heaven. So we'll change the name from Wachuma to St. Peter or San Pedro.
No way.
So that's why it's called San Pedro now. And what really made me go, okay, that's the one, this is where I'm going, is that my dad's name was Peter. And I just thought it was all a little bit too lovely of a coincidence to just kind of pass it up. Yeah, so I said, okay, fuck it, I'll go to Cusco and drink cactus tea as well as doing the ayahuasca. So
okay, sorry to cut across here because that's a good starting point for you to continue on. But just can you give people a bit of an outline on what ayahuasca is and what was the name of the other substance? Sorry, mescaline. Yeah. What that is to people who don't know, because I'm very familiar with both of them. But can you give people what your understanding of those two things were back then, as opposed to now, if that makes sense?
Yeah, sure. So ayahuasca is basically, it's a brew of it. There's a a vine and a leaf that are both basically brewed together to make this kind of again, it's kind of like a tea basically, but it would have been used kind of in antiquity for the not just Peruvian people, but all over the world basically, but mainly in South America, as a way to sort of connect with the spirit world, or to really to connect with oneself with the aid of the spirit world, let's say. So they say that ayahuasca is kind of this female spirit. They call it Mother Ayahuasca, like a very kind of like a very maternal kind of a presence or spirit. And generally speaking, what it was used for would be to gain insights into yourself and into life and into the world around you, basically, and to connect with that with a view to self-improvement, basically. That's kind of what it was for originally, and that's what it's still pretty much used for nowadays as well. So then in tandem with that, then that'd be kind of more in the Amazon jungle, and then up in the mountains, then the cactus would be more kind of common, or at least more local. So you have San Pedro or Wachuma cactuses growing all over the place, and a lot of people then kind of cultivate them themselves for pretty much the same purpose. The difference between the two of them is that San Pedro is said to have a more male presence, or the nickname for San Pedro is grandfather. So the other thing is that they call San Pedro heart medicine. So the effects of both are very, very different as well, and the settings that you would do the two of them are very, very different. So, for example, ayahuasca is usually done in the dark at night time, lying on a mat, with just maybe a candle lighting, and that's kind of it. Whereas San Pedro, at least the way that Leslie Myberg does it in her place, is you do it in her beautiful garden in the daytime. So 10 o'clock in the morning, you have your cactus tea, and you hang around the garden for the day in the sunshine. And so it's two very, very different experiences and two very different spirits, I suppose you would say. But definitely there is a very strong sense of ayahuasca being female and San Pedro being male. I can maybe kind of go into that a little bit more, I don't know, but
by all means, if absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, just so we don't lose anybody,
Yeah.
the two kind of teas or potions or whatever you want to call it, the ayahuasca and the mescaline, both of those are, sorry, the ayahuasca and the San Pedro are both contain very, very powerful psychedelics.
Yeah.
So the active compound in ayahuasca is dimethyltryptamine, which I believe is the strongest psychedelic known to man. And then in San Pedro, it's mescaline, which mightn't be as powerful, but it's certainly up there.
Yeah, and well, dimethyltryptamine as well. It's not only one of the most powerful psychedelics. It's a substance that occurs in all organic life. So we have DMT inside of us, and most other, like plants, animals, all other organic things would have a certain amount of DMT within them as well. So it's not like completely an outside thing. It's basically, if you're, say, drinking ayahuasca, you're taking in a substance that's already actually inside yourself anyway.
Yes.
But it's not, your body doesn't process it on its own. You have to add, so that's why they add the chacruna leaf to the Banisteriopsis vine, is to activate the DMT, to make it orally active.
Yes.
Because you have enzymes in your stomach that make it, that deactivate it, let's say. So in order for it to work, essentially, in the psychedelic sense, you have to add an inhibitor so that those enzymes don't prevent it from working.
Okay.
So there's the science bit.
You
bastardized massively.
But again, you're speaking in terms that I think people can relate to and hear and understand. I could get someone with a PhD in chemistry in to tell us all about the ins and outs of it, and nobody would get anything from it. So it's you explained it perfectly. But if you kind of shied away about explaining the masculine and the female of two there, or about it at least.
Well, I suppose again that this is where you kind of might lose people in terms of, it kind of gets a little bit sort of airy fairy, but maybe that's, I don't know, I can only speak about my own experience of it,
of course.
which, you know, funnily enough, kind of is very similar to what other people experience as well. Very different to what others experience. Like, for example, like Ivor went and had his experience in Peru. I went and had mine. They were completely different. Like, there was certain similarities, but they were very, very different as well at the same time. From the fundamentals of where we were staying to the experiences that we had when we were taking the medicine, for example.
Yes.
Everybody's experience is totally different. But what a lot of people report, say if they're taking ayahuasca, is that they either see a female entity, or they can just feel a female presence, or they can almost hear a female voice, and it does feel very maternal and very nurturing. But then with San Pedro, it's more kind of it's still very nurturing and all of that kind of stuff, but it's more kind of a bit of a, like, what's the best way to describe it? So we were talking earlier on about like giving someone a kick up the hole. It is a bit of a kick up the hole, but in a very loving way.
Right.
So it is kind of like mom and dad, you know, in a very basic way.
Yeah.
Again, lots of people can experience that very differently, but that's exactly how I kind of experienced it. So yeah, I don't know where to go next after that.
Well, you got yourself to, did you say it's
To Cuzco.
Where is Cusco?
So Cuzco is a Quechuan word, which is like the ancient Incan language, which means navel. And funnily enough, we were talking about chakras earlier on. You have a chakra here at your belly button, which the Incas, or the ancient sort of South American people would have called your Cuzco. That was the name of the chakra, the navel. So Cuzco is known as the navel of the universe. So they believe that they're actually the belly button of the whole universe, which is kind of cool. So a lot of their like ancient architecture and everything is sort of based around different types of astronomy and alignments with different planets and stars and all that kind of stuff. And they had like some incredible sort of ancient knowledge. So Cuzco, spelled the traditional way is like Qosqo, but in modern times it's Cusco, which would be kind of, say if Iquitos, where most people would go, say, to the jungle for ayahuasca trips or whatever, that's over kind of the east of the country, then Cuzco would be over the other side, over the west, and it'd be more mountainous. It's near where actually Machu Picchu is nearer to there than it would be to Iquitos.
Okay. So same part of the world, relatively speaking, say.
Yeah, same country,
Yeah.
both all in Peru, obviously, but yeah.
Okay, so you got yourself onto a plane and over you went.
Yeah.
So did they meet you at the airport, or like how big is there a 200 bed hotel where you went, like, or
No,
can you
no.
lay it out for people like what exactly it was?
Yeah, so I contacted the couple, the American couple, who were doing the retreat or whatever. I liked them on Facebook. I was kind of in touch with them, had a few questions. They were amazing. It was Travis, really, the husband, let's say, who was kind of answering all the questions, and he was emailing back and forth, giving me all the information, answering all the questions. Like I didn't just hop on a plane and go over there. Like, I did a lot of research, a lot of reading, and I'd recommend, if anybody is thinking about doing something like that, to do that first. I'd do the homework first. So I sussed these people out big time. Really got to kind of connect with them and realize that, yeah, these are definitely the people that I want to go and do this with. So after doing all of that, then they kind of took care of a lot of the stuff, like the logistics, booking accommodation, all that kind of stuff. So I just had to book my flights basically and arrive. So I got on the plane, landed in Lima, had to get another plane from Lima to Cusco, and then a taxi man picked me up at the airport. He had my little name on a sign and the whole lot. It was deadly. Felt very important. And then he brought me up to the hostel. So we were staying in the Myberg's hostel, which is called Casa de la Gringa in Cusco, which I'd highly recommend. It's a really, really cool hostel. The thing about Cusco is that it's really, really high up above sea level, so there's kind of like a lot of people sort of suffer from altitude sickness and things like that, but you can get coca leaves to just chew, or drink coca tea, or there's loads of different things that you can do to kind of help that. Or if you get it really bad, you can just get medication for it or whatever. So that's one thing to note if you're going to Cusco, that it's really fucking high up. So the guy anyway brought me to the hostel, and then you kind of like, everything is sort of up hills. Like, it's not like Dublin city where there's just big high buildings, or like New York with all these skyscrapers. It's not like that at all. It's still kind of there's still kind of an ancient element to it. Like it's not a very, it's a very well developed city in some senses, but it's not like there's very little luxury available in it, put it that way. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, then probably not the best place to go. Now, the hostel was perfectly clean. It was really comfortable. It was really quirky, like loads of lovely art around the place, loads of cool people hanging around or whatever. And yeah, it was really, really nice. And what happened was we all like checked in or whatever. There was other people obviously doing this particular retreat as well, most of whom were American, a couple of Canadians, just a lovely, lovely bunch of people. Again, like I was saying earlier on about like people who go and do this sort of stuff, they're all people who are looking to improve something or get better or be better or whatever. So you're like, you know, probably 99% of the time you're going to meet lovely people who are just trying to be better human beings, which is pretty much exactly what happened to me. So we all kind of settled in or whatever. That was all grand. Then there was a bit of like an induction talking about like what was going to happen over the next few days, trying to like prepare us or whatever. And the way that it was going to work out was that the Monday we would go up to Leslie's house, up kind of further up into the mountains, do a San Pedro session. Then on the Tuesday we'd have a day off, we'd go off kind of sightseeing, which was amazing as well. Then Wednesday night and Thursday night would be ayahuasca sessions, and then Friday would be kind of a day off, and then Saturday would be another San Pedro ceremony to kind of close off the medicine aspect of the trip, let's say. Then the following week we were supposed to be going to Machu Picchu, which didn't really work out, but I can get to that later.
Oh no, yeah, no, we will.
So yeah, back to the Monday. Then we went up to Leslie's place. She has like just this amazing garden with all kinds of plants and stuff like that, and two dogs, not unlike your two dogs out there actually, kind of just wandering around, just looking after people, keeping an eye on things or whatever. And basically just all, you know, come together in the Maloka, and you talk about like why you're there if you want to. Talk about what your intentions are. So when you're doing a lot of this stuff, intention is really, really important. It's not just about showing up and like drinking the medicine and sure we'll see what happens. Like you kind of have to do a lot of preparation before you go. So in terms of like what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, what you hope to achieve from it, just kind of trying to get your head together basically before you kind of, you know, go into it. So that you're going in with your eyes open, basically.
Get your setting right, as McKenna would have put it.
Setting, yeah. Absolutely. It's really, really, really important. So some people would have been there and they would have talked very openly and very kind of in a very detailed way about why they were there, what they were trying to achieve, all that kind of stuff. Other people would just kind of, you know, maybe say a little sentence. Everybody would always give gratitude for being there. Like it was kind of a common theme. Everyone was just like, I'm just delighted to be here and really grateful to meet you people. It was all very lovely, like big fucking loving. But then anyway, what happens is everybody, you know, drinks their medicine, but then from that point it becomes a very individual experience. So everybody with ayahuasca, you kind of stay in the Maloka, everybody has their mat and you're there for the night and nobody really moves apart from maybe to go to the bathroom and then they come back. Whereas with the San Pedro ceremonies, everybody takes a blanket and maybe a cushion or whatever, finds a part of the garden and just kind of parks themselves there. But the effects of San Pedro are such that you could easily just go for a walk somewhere, or like you're not, like you can still talk, you can still walk, you can still, you know, function on all of those levels. But there's
you're
just
not under, say.
Yeah, but it's like there's like again a kind of a frequency sort of a thing. There's another level going on, or another level that you're tapped into, but you're still here as well. So what happened for me, I suppose, on the first day of San Pedro was that it was all very much kind of stuff to do with my dad, or I felt like my dad's presence was very strong there, which may be why I would definitely say that San Pedro was like a male presence. I felt like it was my dad's presence. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm fucking bonkers. Doesn't matter. I don't think so.
It's what you felt. It's what you felt. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was different kind of, like without going into all the ins and outs of that, like there was some kind of really humbling moments, really just lovely moments, just like a lot of insights into like my relationship with my dad and all that kind of stuff, which it was always a really positive relationship. And I kind of worked through a lot of stuff, and then it kind of like after that it sort of went on to other things to do with just other people in my life and relationships with them, and just basically kind of reviewing a lot of the stuff that was happening in my life and giving me like a real sense of just love and compassion and forgiveness, and just a really, really, really positive experience. And then that kind of goes on for a few hours, and then eventually they come, like one of the staff will come with like a bowl of fresh fruit or whatever, and everybody eats their lovely fresh fruit and has a cup of tea, and kind of you start sort of coming out of the I suppose the trip, if that's what you want to call it. And then they brought us to so the house was right beside the Temple of the Moon and all these other temples, which is really an amazing experience to be right beside all of these. Like
These are
really,
ancient temples.
yeah, ancient Incan temples,
Okay.
like thousands of years old. So once we had our little bit of fruit and our tea and the whole lot, then we went out for a walk around those, and we got to kind of learn a little bit of the history about them and a little bit about Andean mysticism. And for example, like Leslie's son Mark brought us to this little river, and it was beside the Temple of the Frog, and we were all kind of down there, whatever, and he got us all to go over and just like put our hand in the river. And he said that the Incas used to have this this sort of tradition that if you were after going through something negative, or you know, if there was anything bad going on in your life, that you would go down to the river, put your hand in it, and say a little prayer into the river, and let the river take the nightmares, and then just like splash a little bit of the water on yourself, and then basically you've let the river just take all the badness, and then you carry on with your life, which I just thought was really lovely.
There's elements of a baptism of sorts in there, is there?
Kinda, but
washing
not
away,
but not
stuff?
not in any sort of dogmatic sense.
Yes,
like you
yes.
know, like so the Quechuas, the Quechua people particularly, they didn't or the Q'ero people, they didn't have any real like a system of beliefs or a religious kind of a system, or there's no dogma really. Like everything that they sort of believe and teach and practice is all to do with each other and the earth and the universe. And they talk a lot about reciprocation, this thing called aini. So anything that you give, if you give something, you should get something, and if you get something, you should give something. And it's all this kind of a constant sort of system of reciprocity, basically. And they talk about energy in a really interesting way. Like, so there's no such thing as a bad energy, good energy, or anything like that. It's light energy and it's heavy energy, or Sami and Hucha is what they call it. So when they're doing any sort of again, spiritual, I hate the fucking word, but if they're doing spiritual practice, it's all about energy exchange and energy balance.
Right.
So again, like they work with different kind of different sort of techniques, like meditation techniques and all that kind of stuff as well. So we got to learn loads about their kind of traditions, and they were actually the Q'ero are amazing as well. These Quechuan people, when the conquistadors came to South America again, like 600 years ago, there was a bunch of Incas who were like, fuck this, like we're not accepting this, we're going to try and get away. So they tried to run up the mountains, really, really high mountains, and they got to a certain part and they were kind of caught or whatever, and then there was, I think, an avalanche or something like that came and wiped out all the people that were chasing them. So they were like, okay, great, kept going up the mountain. And then it got to a certain point where the Spanish were just like, anybody that's gone that far up the mountain, there's no way they're going to survive. They're all going to die up there. We're just going to just leave them, just let them at it. But they did survive up there. They basically adapted into living like above the clouds at this like incredible altitude. And they did that for hundreds of years until like the 1950s or 60s was when they kind of started coming down out of the mountains.
Oh, right.
And yeah, they still had all the ancient traditions preserved, still spoken the Quechua language. So those people don't even speak Spanish, never mind English. Like some of the people that were working in the ceremonies with us, there was two Q'ero brothers, who lived up in the mountains still, and they weren't able to, like, even if I was fluent in Spanish, they wouldn't have understood anything that I was saying, really. They had like a tiny little bit to be able to communicate with Leslie maybe, but that was it. They still speak the ancient Incan language of Quechua, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, really, really cool people. So they were kind of heavily involved in like our ceremonies, and they did these limpia cleansing, so like an energy cleansing. So when we were doing the San Pedro ceremonies, excuse me, they'd come over and do a personal cleansing on each person that was there, and it was really, really incredible. And on another one of the days, they did what they call a despacho ceremony. So it's like a giving thanks to Mother Earth ceremony. So it's all very kind of symbolic. You might put they make this little parcel out of newspaper, and they put flowers and bits of food and different things, coca leaves, and everybody gives intentions to it, all this kind of stuff. It's this beautiful ceremony. And in the end, they parcel it all up and they burn it and offer it to Mother Earth or whatever. So there's a lot of this stuff that wasn't anything to do with them taking plant medicines, but it was all the kind of the ceremony of it. It was just like a really, really lovely experience, like the whole thing. So
Well, I think we've lost the idea of ceremony these days.
definitely.
I think masses are ceremonies, like the way we would have all went to mass on a Sunday morning or Saturday night or whenever it was that we used to go to them. We've lost that. And that's a bad thing. That's something I think we need to kind of take back. Is this idea of ceremony. We get a touch of it when we go to concerts and when we go to football matches and things like that, but there's no real, you kind of enjoy that ceremony without being taught anything. You don't go to a football match to learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
Or a concert, as much as you might enjoy them, but I don't know, we seem
The
to be
intention
missing out
is
on that.
different. Yeah.
You mentioned something about, I think you said there was like some form of cleansing. What was that, or how did that take form?
So again, the way that they sort of see energy is light energy and heavy energy, and they kind of like look at you to see how your energy is balancing. Do you know? So they if they saw some heavy energy, they'd balance it out. Like they use condor feathers and rattles and a couple of different little things where you just stand up and they're just working, doing whatever, and they're literally like blowing away anything heavy. So like literally like you'll hear them like blowing past your ear or whatever, getting rid of anything that's causing an imbalance to you as they see it, an energetic imbalance.
Okay, akin to the flower baths that Ivor would have taken.
Yeah.
Something thereabouts.
Yeah. Very similar to that, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay, so this was it the first? Sorry, let's just get the timeline right. So you arrived with these guys. Was it the next day you stayed there, and then the next day you had a mescaline?
Yeah.
You
so
drank the mescaline tea, or?
so we stayed in the hostel in town the first night, and then went up to Leslie's house in the mountains the second morning.
Yeah.
Went up fasting because
That's what I meant to ask you. Was there a fasting element to it, or?
Yeah, but only on the days of your ceremony. So some
Okay.
people, if they're going off to say do a diet, a plant medicine diet in the jungle or anywhere for a few weeks or for a month, there's this diet that they would follow in advance. So Ivor would be a lot more familiar with that than I would. I tried it for a couple of weeks before I went away, and then I had a wedding and I had a few different things on. It was my birthday, and I wasn't just gonna eat fucking quinoa and sweet potato and broccoli and nothing else. So although I love all those things, but just it wasn't working for me. And plus, I'd gotten advice anyway from the people hosting that, look, you don't have to be really, really strict. Like they provided all the meals anyway while we were there, so they were like, while we're doing our ceremony, like you'll be eating properly on those days, so maybe don't like booze the head off yourself over the next week or whatever, but you don't have to be really, really like, you can have a glass of wine at the wedding, like that kind of way. So so that was all grand. So the first morning we got up and they kind of said, right, don't eat anything, we'll give you kind of that fruit salad bowl later on or whatever. So you're fasting, and then you take the medicine, then later on eat the fruit, have your tea, and then later on that evening a kind of a light meal that they prepared as well. So it's kind of like a stew kind of a type thing with rice or whatever. So on the days that we were doing medicine ceremonies, that was kind of the crack. So you'd fast before the medicine, and then they'd sort of give you lovely healthy grub then afterwards to build you back up again. So
Okay, and can you tell me, like, when you drank the tea, was it, did your pupils dilate and the whole world explode, or what?
Yeah. So people always really want to know this, but I think sometimes they're afraid to ask. They're like, oh, you took ayahuasca. Like, did you shit yourself in front of everybody? Like, that's what they like. People expect that it's like this big, like, oh, everybody puking everywhere, and everybody like, that it's this big. I think that was one of the things that was really different between Ivor's experience and my experience, is that I think he purged a lot. They call this purging, by the way. So it's very common, like for people when they drink ayahuasca or drink any kind of plant medicine, that your your stomach will react in a way that's not all that pleasant, to put it that way. So it could come out either end, both ends, whatever. That often happens to people. So in ayahuasca ceremonies, usually you'd have like a bucket beside your mat, and if you have to puke, you just puke into your bucket and that's it. If you have to, you know, go the other end, then you just go out to the bathroom and that's it, or whatever. So some people that I was in the room with, they might, you know, they vomited or they had a bit of a purge or whatever. I didn't purge at all.
Right.
Like at all. So I didn't feel sick. I didn't.
And sorry, was this after the mescaline or the DMT?
With
or
both, like it would be common enough for people to purge after both.
Okay.
You know, so especially vomiting, like that would be kind of the most common way to purge. Like for most people, I think from what I can gather, like they'd feel a little bit sick and they may or may not get sick, but they would definitely feel sick. I didn't feel sick at all when I was taking San Pedro or ayahuasca, neither, which is kind of, that's pretty uncommon. I put it down to the fact that I was kind of like, I had tried to like prepare myself like kind of food wise and stuff, but bar that kind of week where I was really bold with the birthday and the wedding and all that, which was the week before I went. But anyway, there was all of that, but also I got this sense that it's gonna sound mad, but that the plant spirits were kind of being gentle on me, because I was going there in a very vulnerable state. Like I'd just lost my dad, I was grieving pretty heavily, I had a lot of other stuff going on, and it just felt like that the medicine was looking after me. It was a very gentle, loving, nurturing experience. There was no kind of, there's a couple of things here and there, especially when I was doing ayahuasca, where it was kind of like making me look at things about myself or about things that have happened in the past that I didn't really want to look at, and I kind of go, oh no, I'm not ready for that, and they go, like I just got this overwhelming presence going, no, you are looking at this,
like it or not,
this is what we're here for, like this is but it was again like in a very loving way, a very supportive way. It wasn't, I didn't feel like I was being forced into it or anything like that. It was kind of more just like, you know, just kind of cop on and man up a little bit, like, you know what I mean, and just face this thing. But other than that, like everything else was a very kind of gentle experience for me, but might not be for everybody else.
And did you get the visuals, the strong visuals? Can you outlay that for people?
Yeah, so there's some that I won't go into because they're quite personal or whatever. Now I didn't have any I know Ivor was talking about like having kind of demonic visions and stuff like that, which does happen to some people. No, I had none of that. But one of the things I suppose that I will talk about that I thought was really, it was a real take home for me as well, but it was the second night of ayahuasca, and I was kind of laying on my mat or whatever. The first night of ayahuasca, it wasn't that intense for me. It was an intense experience, but not visually.
Okay.
But the second night, Jesus Christ. So I was on my mat and started kicking in or whatever, so I was lying down and I got this very strong sense. I could hear this female voice going, we're not working up here this evening, as in like in this realm, we're going down here, which is interesting as well, because another thing about Andean mysticism, they have this thing called the Chicana or the Andean cross, and it represents the three realms and the four directions. So the three realms are kind of the, let's say the lower realm, which is represented by the serpent. So it's kind of like belly to the ground, all very earthy, all very basic kind of level knowledge, like innate knowledge, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, instinct.
Exactly, yeah. And then in the middle realm would be kind of represented by the jaguar or the puma or the puma. And that's all kind of more sort of learning and knowledge and kind of development, personal development. And then the upper realm or the higher realm, which would be the condor or the hummingbird, they'd be the kind of representative creatures, let's say. That's more kind of your higher self, or, you know, enlightenment, I suppose, or all those kind of things would sort of, that's where those things would live, up in that realm. And I suppose just on that note, there's an interesting kind of relationship between the condor and the jaguar in our realm, like in the jungle. If the condor, if a jaguar or a puma kills another animal, they share it with the condor. But the reason that they do that is because when the condor sees a lame animal or an animal that's weak, it'll circle above it, like flying up in the sky, circle above it to go,
telling the jaguar,
look over here. So the jaguar will go over, make the kill, have their bit of food, and then leave the rest for the condor. And they're like, right, sound, see you next time, kind of thing. which is a very Einie kind of a thing. Like I was talking earlier on about the reciprocity of everything. Like that's the way that they kind of
Yeah, that's symbiotic relationships. Yeah.
totally the give and take. Do you know what I mean? So so this spirit plant mother whatever thing presence told me we're not working up here in this realm today, we're working down here. So we were going back down to the lower realm or whatever, and it was really weird. So I was kind of we were walking through this like a kind of like a field or a meadow or something like that, and there was like a little stream or whatever, and we were kind of chatting, and I couldn't really tell you all the ins and outs what we were chatting about. Like I couldn't see this person as a person. It was more like a feeling.
I'm conscious of cutting across you, but you just kind of mentioned it there. That, did you feel like you were talking to someone else or yourself? Because when I hear voices, we all hear voices in our head.
Yeah.
But that's always me.
Yeah.
It might be, angry Frano, or, anxiety-filled Frano, or loving Frano, but it's me or a different version of me. Is that what that felt like?
No.
This is
It was
a
something
distinct...
outside of myself.
Yes.
Very connected to me.
Yes.
But
they knew you, say.
Separate to me. Oh, yeah. Definitely. I knew I was coming. That kind of way. It was very strange. Like, it's a very strange thing to try and explain unless you've kind of experienced it. Because I mean, even I read Ivor's blog before I went over. I spoke to loads of people who've experienced ayahuasca, and they could never have explained to me what it was going to actually be like when I went to do it. So like kind of words fail you in a massive way. So it wasn't that I was kind of like talking to another person, but it was like there was definitely a dialogue happening there between me and another entity, let's say.
Yeah.
It's a bit mad.
And with Ivor's story, I think it was a little bit easier for me to make sense of it because it was at night and it was dark.
Yeah.
So
for me,
how did that work?
In this particular setting, for the when we were doing ayahuasca, it was dark. It was the Maloka. It was all that as well. It was the very same thing. It was for San Pedro. It was during the day. It was in the garden. The sun was shining. Everybody's kind of wide awake kind of thing. Whereas with the ayahuasca, you're in a Maloka, it's dark, there's a shaman, there's a Shipibo lady in the corner singing Icaros, the medicine songs, there's an apprentice to the shaman, he's kind of playing different instruments as well. But other than that, everybody is like in a circle on their mats, lying down, not interacting with each other, not being able to see each other. It's totally, you're on your own basically. It's you and the medicine, and that's it. And what I did see, now I didn't require it, let's say, but other people who were maybe struggling with something, whether it was an emotion or a vision or whatever, the shaman was straight over to them and working with them and helping them through it, and all that kind of stuff, and guiding them. But for me, I didn't really have any interaction at all. It was all just within myself.
All internal.
Yeah. So where was I? Oh yeah, so I was kind of in this meadowy place, and I was kind of sitting down, and I could see all these like little, this is going to sound absolutely bonkers, but I could see all these like little women, like little tiny women, like on me, and kind of like just doing, like smiling, but doing stuff. And I didn't know what
walking up and down your arms and on your body.
Yeah. And I was kind of going, what the fuck is going on here? And this like presence was going, don't mind them. They're just doing their job. And I was going, what do you mean don't mind them? Like, of course I'm going to mind. And like, I just got this sense of, it's okay. This is normal. This is what we're here for. It's grand. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to, give into this. That's fine. So that's a very common type of vision to have when you're having ayahuasca visions. Like this sense or a vision of people working on you and doing, like, they're like literally like little kind of, I don't know whether they were like, it wasn't like hammer and nails type thing, but it wasn't far off. Like they were kind of doing work on me.
Because did I ever say that he saw people stitching his hand back together, or felt someone stitching his hand, or kind of fixing his hands?
Something along those lines, all right. Yeah.
Something similar.
Yeah, so kind of something similar to that, but very good. Like I could see them. It was very strange, but eventually anyway, I just started laughing. I was like, this is hilarious, like, so I just kind of let that go, and then we kind of go on another bit or whatever, and then other stuff happened. But then the thing that I really thought was really cool, and it still is sticking with me now, even in terms of if I go a few days without playing any music, or if I've been kind of neglecting that sort of side of myself, I always think about this sort of vision. And it was that I went down into this kind of like a basement. So kind of opened up a door and went down the stairs, and it was this like mad kind of looking room. It was almost like a Clockwork Orange meets like Alice in Wonderland, kind of like very sort of bizarre kind of visual stuff. And it was all these like kind of entities that were kind of like cartoons, but not really. It was just really bizarre. I was looking around going, what the hell is this? And they were all crowded in together, like falling over each other. And they were all kind of a bit sad. And I was like, what the hell is this? You know? And so then I heard this voice going, this is your creativity. This is, look what's happening because you're neglecting it. Like it's getting too full in here. Everybody's really depressed. You need to start letting them out. You need to like nurture them more. So it was kind of like showing me that my creativity was an entity in and of itself that I had to nurture and look after and take out for walks, basically.
Yeah.
That was kind of what I got from it. It was a mad way to kind of see that, but that was just one thing anyway. There was loads of other things, again, like, you know, very sort of personal insights, and it was just a very kind of enriching experience for me.
And aside from, like, I obviously don't want you to share anything that's kind of too personal or that, but is there any other kind of examples that you can give of what you saw or how it made you feel, or what use you've gotten from it since? Because actually, forget about that for a sec. What you said there about this idea of you having this creative person almost inside you that needed to be walked and exercised, and
Yeah.
I love that. I really really do think that's cool, because I think that we have, like, even our emotions, I think our emotions are people in a sense. Do you know the kind of way? I do think that there is an angry Frano in me that needs to be kept on a short fucking leash, because he's a dangerous bastard. He's the guy that'll split your headbutt for no reason when he's too drunk, and, you know, not that I ever have or would, hopefully, but that idea of the shadow self, I've a very well developed shadow side of me, and I know that I have to keep that thing or person or being or whatever it is on a very short leash and not introduce it to my, you know, family. Do you know that kind of way?
Sure.
And then there's other things like the creative version of me, which only got out for its first walk there last week. Do you know that kind of way? And we've all these different elements of us, and the, you know, Fran McKeown, who I am, is all of those things kind of combined, and there's a balance that need to be struck between them all, because you need the shadow side, you need the dark side, you need to be able to draw that darkness forth when, you know, your family becomes under attack in whatever form that kind of manifests itself. But sorry, I'm rambling myself again, as always, but what are the take homes, or presumably you'd recommend this experience to other people, or would you? Or
I would, but I wouldn't recommend it lightly. I wouldn't say like, oh, everybody should go and do this. Everybody shouldn't go and do it. But if people are interested in doing it, like, I mean, I'd be happy to talk on a more personal sort of one-to-one level with, you know, say maybe in more detail about, you know, the things that I experienced and what I got from it, all that kind of, you know, that sort of thing. But what I will say is that if people are thinking of going and doing it, like, don't just go and like blindly wander into the jungle or up into the Andes mountains and, you know, just book in for an ayahuasca ceremony. Like, really do take your time and do your research. Talk to people as much as possible who, you know, have been there, and get recommendations, you know, get feedback, get as much information at your fingertips as you can before making a very informed decision about doing it. And then, like, don't take it lightly as well, because what you're doing is you're going and you're opening yourself up to a deeply transformational experience in some cases, and that's not something that you leave in the jungle or up the mountain. That's something that you take home with you. Like, I'm still having kind of revelations and still processing certain things, and it's nearly a year on, or 6 months on, or whatever, 8 months on. I couldn't write, if I wrote forevermore, I couldn't write down all the things that I learned, even though I like it's as if this is going to sound so corny, but it's as if my heart learned a load of stuff and my brain is still trying to catch up and trying to process it all and put it into sort of language that I can understand and be able to articulate to myself, never mind to other people. So it's a hugely it'll affect you in a big way. So don't go and do it unless you're willing to put the work in to prepare for it, and also to come back after it and try and kind of unpack it all as well, because it is a big deal. It's amazing, and it's absolutely, I would do it again in a heartbeat, and I will probably in the future go back many times, but I wouldn't I wouldn't take it lightly.
no, it's a sound advice, I think. you mentioned something there. You reminded me of what you were saying, kind of from the outset in relation to your music. There's one thing, you can put a plan in place and you can create an album, but once the album is made, there's all this other stuff that has to happen. And there's an analogy there, I think, in relation to going over there and doing it. So you plan it out, you do your research, you make sure that you're ready, you book your flights, you go over, you do it, you have the experience. But having the experience is almost like recording the album.
Exactly.
There's so much more past that. So that's one thing that I think myself and Ivor haven't really touched on as much. So maybe you might be able to kind of open a door into that world. Like, what have you done since, or what, with the benefit of hindsight, would you have done sooner or more of since the experience, say?
I just go to the bathroom.
Yeah, no, you walk away.
Not just to think about that, but
no, you're grand. Do it, but by all means, take your time. You know where you're going. The door just the only door at the back of the house that faces you, straight through that door. Give that a push. There we go. I'm going to. Yeah, straight in front of you there, and the door just straight inside.
Perfect. Thanks a million.
No worries. Now, as anyone who was listening to my conversation with, who the fuck was it? Darren McCann. He was the most recent guest that I've had on. The same kind of thing happened. Darren needed to go to the toilet, and I said I'd fill the dead air in between. The idea being that I do intend to record these podcasts live, both the audio and the video, and bang them up live so you can actually watch them as they happen. Now, when that happens, people are no doubt going to need to go to the bathroom or whatever else, and I'm going to need to fill that space. So when better to learn how to fill that space than when I'm doing these conversations now, if that's not too rambly. But anyway, I understand that Joy would have brought a relatively new audience, especially Joy's group of friends. So hello, if this is your first episode. I hope we're not losing you too much in talk of ayahuasca and psychedelics and all that. But if you want to get a better handle maybe on where Joy's coming from, or a couple of things that we've referenced, I'd highly recommend listening to, I think it was episode 3, my first conversation with Ivor, and then Ivor came back on again. I can't remember the number, but it's Ivor McQuillan episode 2, and myself and Ivor go deep down the world of spirituality and psychedelics and plant medicines. We talk a lot about guys like Graham Hancock and Terence McKenna, and if you're interested in this kind of psychedelic, plant medicine, spiritual aspect of what myself and Joy have been talking about, I'd highly recommend those 2 podcasts. That plus, I suppose, Graham Hancock, was it Graham Hancock? Graham Hancock, maybe not Graham Hancock, but if you Google Joe Rogan psychedelics, something like that will get you down another psychedelic spirituality shaped rabbit hole. But anyway, I managed it, Joey. I got there. No, you're grand. I was basically just explaining to anybody who's basically new to the podcast why I'm still talking when you're not here.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
But where
I was trying for ages to not, but then I was like, no, I just have to go.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. Sorry, I should have given you the heads up before the recording started of the kind of the protocol.
Not at all.
But yeah, where did we leave off on? Because I've been chatting away to myself since you left.
I'll be looking forward to hearing that bit, probably more so than anything else. I think you were saying about what to do when you come home from something like that, or how
the processing, say.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm still kind of processing a lot of it. I think what Ivor did was brilliant in that he wrote his blog, and I think he was writing a lot after that as well. For me, I found I just couldn't. I brought a notebook with me and I thought I'm going to write everything down. That's what I do. I write all the time anyway, in my life in general. But I couldn't, whenever I went to sit down to write, I just couldn't put pen to paper. I didn't know where to start, and it just wasn't really working for me. But fortunately, I have a couple of friends who'd be very experienced in the likes of plant medicine and all that kind of stuff. So I Ivor obviously as well, who's like family basically now at this stage. But I had great support and people that I could talk to, because I think that that's the key really as well, is to be able to just, with anything, not just with this kind of an experience, but to be able to kind of have a conversation and tell people. I mean, I told my mum probably every single inch of what took place over there, you know, and she would have been a great support. And anybody else, like, you know, certain friends I would have talked to as well, but especially it really helped having people who kind of understood the experience, had been through the experience, to be able to tell me like, oh, that's normal, or, you know, maybe just a heads up about this, or, you know, it was good to have experienced people around to be able to kind of lean on. So again, I would say, like, if somebody is thinking of going and doing something like that, and they did want to talk about it, like, I'm not, again, by no means a fucking expert. I've gone like one time to Peru, I've done like a handful of ceremonies, but I'd be more than happy to share my experience and anything that I came across, or any kind of like little sort of heads ups that I can give, or, you know, any kind of advice like that. I'd be more than happy to. I'm sure Ivor would as well. Most people who've been to do it kind of understand that it is a very, even if you went with a group of people, it's still a very individual thing. But you do need to come back into a supportive environment to kind of to try and unpack everything afterwards, I feel, anyway. And I think most people would sort of feel the same. So when you've been through that yourself and had that feeling, I think it makes you very willing and, you know, willing and able to provide that support for other people that go off and do it and come back.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. One thing that I mentioned, or I don't know if I mentioned it to Ivor, it's certainly something that I think about him. Uh, I think it took tremendous balls for Ivor to basically up sticks and head off into the jungle, and that is a man, I think. Now, maybe this is the misogynist come bursting out of me, but that is a man is a hard enough thing to do. That was a brave enough thing for a man to do, and he brought fucking 3 or 4 of his mates. You up sticks fucked off by yourself.
Well, to be honest, I remember actually even Kevin, my brother, saying to me like a few weeks before I was going, he'd read something in the news about somebody being attacked or something like that, and I was kind of going, but shit, that fucking happens in Dublin. Do you know what I mean? Like, people get attacked, and like, at the end of the day, the frame of mind that I was in was that I had just already, like, I'd lost my dad.
Yeah.
And to me at that point, I was like, whatever happens now, I can fucking deal with it. Do you know what I mean? Because that had happened, and therefore, I don't know, there was a kind of an element of, yeah, like, well, whatever you have, like, bring it on, because I'm going to be able to, if I can cope with that, I can cope with anything. There was also very much a sense of I knew I was going to be okay. Like, I knew, number one, I had done my research, and I felt really well connected to these people that were running the retreat, so I knew that they were going to look after me. But even in the, like, from getting from Dublin to there and back again, and any time that I had on my own, I wasn't really that scared. I just knew deep down that I was just going to be all right. Like, so I would have rathered that than have someone coming with me, to be honest. Although a couple of people had mentioned that they'd like to come, and then dates didn't work out or whatever. And I was kind of, in a way, not that I didn't want to spend time with them, but I felt that this was very much an individual experience for me. And having anybody else there might have kind of altered the experience. Maybe not made it any better or worse, but definitely would have been a different thing. Like, I only had myself to sort of focus on, and I was happy doing that. So I think the fact that I felt comfortable in what I was doing, who I was going to meet, all that kind of stuff, and I felt very, like, I'd have pretty decent coping skills anyway in general. You know, I just kind of felt that if something pops up, I'll be able to deal with it, and I'm going to be fine. I didn't feel like I was in any danger, you know.
Yeah, no, of course.
So,
No, fair play. And again, it takes an extra set of balls, I think, to go and do it by yourself. Never mind with other people. Like, and fair play to you again. I think you're
cheers.
a shining example to anybody out there who's thinking of either going somewhere or even just doing something. Because you don't have to go to the other side of the world to kind of experience something or to do something new.
Yeah.
It could be a simple little thing like just putting something you've written up on your Facebook page. Do you know, that kind of way? That could be the big leap for some people, because not everyone's going to hop in a plane and do some mad psychedelic experience over the other side of the
Definitely.
world.
But that's the funny thing, and actually that kind of brings me back to, I suppose, the last day of San Pedro, which was on the Saturday. So this was after we'd already done one San Pedro, done a bit of traveling around, seen a few different places, done 2 ayahuasca ceremonies, and then this was kind of the last day of ceremony before we were heading off to Machu Picchu. But my big learning of that day was that I was really enjoying Peru and all things Peruvian, but I got a real sense of my Irishness while I was there. And people often say that when you go away, you feel more Irish than you do when you're at home.
Yeah.
But that day, I was kind of sitting in the garden. The sun was shining, and I was kind of like looking around the place. And I was going, yeah, no, it's all really, lovely or whatever, but it's not. It's not home. And I kept thinking of places like Tara and all these different places that I love around this little island, and it made me really, really appreciate it. And it made me kind of remember all the things that I wanted. So I wanted to. I'd been meaning for ages to brush up on my Irish, for example, like my Irish language.
Yes.
I had wanted to learn the Bowron. I had wanted to do all this kind of stuff, and this was all coming back to me. Like it took me to go to South America to say, go and fucking buy a Bowron for yourself and learn how to play it, like, which is kind of ridiculous. But I'm sure I could have made that realization had I given myself, like, I invested those kind of couple of weeks in myself, and I took that time for myself to kind of work through and work on myself. But I could have probably done a lot of that in my bedroom, or going down and sitting in the Phoenix Park, or going up to the hill of Tara and sitting, on the hill or whatever. Maybe I could have had those same revelations. I didn't. It did take me to go to Peru, but it's absolutely possible that you if you just give yourself the space and time to, to think of these things or realize these things, then they probably will come. You don't have to get on a plane to go and do it. But there was a really funny thing that happened, and I actually kind of forgot about it until just now, whereby I was thinking about all this stuff and the Irish element of it, and then I started getting this kind of really clear vision of, like, someday, like, this kind of premises that I had, this kind of healing center. This is where this whole healing thing came from, and I could see my, like, dogs and the whole I could see it, like, in a very, very clear vision. And it was everything was, again, like, there was this real kind of ancient Irish Celtic kind of element to it all. And I remember kind of, like, sort of, again, sounds a bit mad, asking the spirit, well, how do I know if this is really the path that I'm supposed to go down, And the next thing, this man walked into the garden, like a real man. Like, I thought, maybe, am I imagining this, or is this person real? But he was a real live man, and he walked in with a harp on his back, like an actual real live harp. And here's me kind of sitting contemplating my Irishness and wondering, oh, is this really the path? He walks in, harp on his back, and I just kind of looked up at him, and he smiled at me and I smiled back, and I just went, well, you couldn't have come at a better time. So he's just like, oh, right, yeah, okay, well, my name's Roberto or whatever. And I was like, I'm Joy. I'm Irish, by the way, and the harp is our sacred emblem. He's like, oh, yeah. Turns out he was from Paraguay, and he's this, like, world-class jazz harpist who's friends with Leslie, whose house we were in. He had done a load of San Pedro ceremonies over the years, whatever, and he happened to be in town and thought it'd be just a nice thing to do to come and play his harp for us in the garden while we were doing San Pedro that day. So got chatting to him anyway. He was like, look, I know that you're in this experience. I don't want to be interrupting. I just, going to go and set up my harp or whatever.
As you do.
This really fucking happened. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. So he went off and did that. Then he came back, and he was just kind of like walking past going, hey, how's it going, kind of thing. And he was about to walk on, and for some reason I just went like, oh, but do you want to sit down and have a chat or whatever? So he came over and sat down beside me. It turned out that he had lost his dad in recent times as well.
No.
Which is very weird. And we were kind of talking about that and talking about different things to do, like our families and all this kind of stuff, and had this amazing conversation with him about music and about creativity and about all this kind of stuff or whatever, and about just getting out and doing what you should be doing, what you know in your heart you should be doing. And then he was like, okay, I'll start my gig now. So he started playing. He was playing like all these Beatles tunes. He had done it on a harp like this, like, okay, people listening can't see, but like about half the size of me, maybe even a bit more, like a bit taller, maybe almost the size of me. And he was unbelievable, like, I mean, just ridiculous. And there he is sitting playing his tunes. We're all kind of looking at each other going, this, like, life can actually be this good. Like, this is a real thing that's happening to us right now. Yeah. So he played for ages, played loads of Beatles songs, played some of his own compositions. Like, it was absolutely incredible. I have his CD, thank God, because I went up to him and I was like, have you got a CD? Because you need to sign it and I need to keep it so that I know that this really happened. If nothing else, I need to know this was real. So yeah, I got a CD and I have it at home. I listen to it all the time. Like it was really brilliant. So that was like my last day of San Pedro, and that was the start of my kind of exploration into, right, what, like this healing place, like what does that mean? What am I going to do there? Like I couldn't see exactly what it was. Like I couldn't see what kind of healing it was going to be. It was just like, this is it. It was kind of like, we'll show you this much, but you have to figure out the rest.
Yes.
You know, and I was kind of going like, well, how do I figure that out? And the kind of the presence, let's say, or the spirit was kind of going, well, look around this garden. This garden didn't just, you know, appear like this. It was built flower by flower, and that's how you're going to build your vision, flower by flower. I was like, okay, this is all really lovely. So
No, that's really cool, and there's something, and again, Peterson mentions it a lot. This idea of the walled garden, which is the perfect balance between order and chaos. Have you heard him mention
no, I
anything
don't
like
think
that?
so. No.
Yeah, and he talks about like the Garden of Eden as being a walled garden.
Right.
And what a walled garden is essentially is, as I said, the perfect balance between order and chaos, because the chaos is just nature. Like stuff will just grow and things will just happen. But in a garden that's kind of controlled and it's manicured, and the flowers that you want to blossom not by their own accord, but because you've tended to the weeding.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in that, in just in the terms that you're talking about in your life. You know, you'll have the type of life that you have the life that you create. Essentially, you know.
Definitely. Largely, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, now of course there are other things that are out of your control and all the rest of it, and that's fine. That's just life.
Yeah.
But we are in so much control of the experiences that we have on a day-to-day basis, and the more introspection that we can get through the use of either psychedelics or meditation, or whether it's fitness, whether you're into your running or your float tanks or whatever it is, these can be used to better understand yourself, and the better understanding you have of yourself, the better able you'll be to kind of, I don't know, find your way through this world. So there's echoes in what you're saying there about a kind of a dream of you having this center of healing where everyone comes.
Yeah,
And
I don't even think it
I've
was
heard
a center. Like it wasn't kind of, oh, I'm gonna have this massive place. It was just a place. Like I don't think it was very big. You know, I think it might have been like kind of, I don't know, like it wasn't a big fancy thing. Do you know what I mean? It was just, I could sense the place, and I could see bits and pieces of it. It was like rural, and maybe, I don't know, made out of wood. That's all I can tell you about it. I don't know anything else. Don't know what I was doing there, who was there, don't know, like.
But there's something extra cool about that though, because if you had a vision of exactly what it was going to be, you'd lose a certain amount of the, not the mysticism. Mysticism's the wrong word, but if you had a really concretized vision of what it was, the journey would be kind of stolen from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you know what your end point is, then you've robbed yourself of finding out what your end point is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But listen, Joy, it's been 2 hours and 45. I hope it didn't feel that. And my head cold is just starting to kind of kick in, so unfortunately I feel I'm going to have to cut this one short.
No bother.
You mentioned a couple of times if people wanted to kind of contact you, they could. So are you willing to give out your Facebook page or an email address, or what would be best for
probably
people to
my
contact?
email address would probably be the best thing. It's just Joy M Booth, so JoyMBooth @gmail.com.
Brilliant. So if anybody has been kind of touched by anything that Joy has said, or maybe would just like to reach out and thank her for anything that she said, or might want to know a bit more about her experience, or how they might be able to start their own journey either to Peru or elsewhere, hit Joy up an email. My email, as always, is imoffthelead @gmail.com. Joy, again, sorry, I feel like I've cut this conversation short, but it's either that or I'm going to be sniffling and getting all nasty down the microphone on people, which I don't want to do.
To be honest, I've terrified you, Fran.
Yeah. Joy, it's been an absolute pleasure
having
having you.
Me. Thank you.
Thanks again for coming on.
Cheers.